Just last November, about a year, 1.5 million votes. Republicans are dominating at the ballot. When you look at this, I believe. Number one, we have conservative leadership that delivers across our state. Our leaders here in Florida don't just say that they stand for something and talk about what they will do. They turn campaign promises into enacted policy. Our conservative legislature with our governor have made Florida the epicenter of conservative policy and freedom. In response, pro-freedom Americans are flocking to our state, and we lead the country in net in-migration. People are moving here. The second reason the Republican Party is strengthening here in the state of Florida is the grassroots. That's all of you that are here today. The Republican Party of Florida is the most well-run and effective state party in the country. But that is due to your efforts. You, the grassroots, run this party. You're making the calls, knocking on the doors, getting our message out, and getting our voters to the polls. The grassroots are the ones that got the elected leaders in position to lead for us. And they can never forget that, and we can never forget that. So I thank you for your efforts there. Now let's look what we have in store for you today. With as many rock star Republicans that we have in the state of Florida, I'll admit it's been tough to squeeze them all into one day. You see that on the agenda. And here's who you're going to hear from. We have 7 of the leading presidential candidates here today. And for the first time this cycle, both candidates from Florida, our former president and our current governor, are at the same event on the same day in their home state. We're also going to hear from some rock star congressmen. We got Matt Gaetz, who delivered us Speaker Johnson. We have Byron Donalds, who is one of the greatest fighters in the conservative movement. We have Michael Waltz here today, a Green Beret, who understands how serious it is to put men and women in harm's way. We have Corey Mills, who just days ago was on the ground in Israel evacuating people out of harm's way, Americans out of harm's way, and back to our country. And we have Kat Kamek, who is a pit bull out there fighting for Florida and ensuring that we recover from our hurricanes. We're also going to hear from our entire cabinet, who also all happen to be Republicans in the state of Florida. And many other Republican leaders you're going to hear from today. It's going to be great. So here's what to expect. It's going to be a jam-packed day. Every 20 minutes or so, we'll get a new speaker up here. There's no real break for lunch, so you're going to have to decide when you go. But I encourage you guys, have fun. Recognize and enjoy the success of the Republican Party here in Florida and celebrate our wins. But keep in mind, we cannot get complacent. We must continue the fight because we have a state to protect and a country to save. And our job is not done until there is not one single Democrat in office or thinking about running for office in the state of Florida. So until that happens, we must continue the fight. And again, I thank everyone that's here today. I appreciate every dollar that you spent on a ticket. Goes directly to the Republican Party of Florida for our grassroots operations. I appreciate everyone that has joined their county parties, that are making the calls, knocking on the doors. We cannot win without you, and our leaders could not lead without you. So thank you so much and enjoy the day.
Good morning, fellow patriots. Welcome to the Republican Party of Florida's Freedom Summit, where in Florida, freedom comes first and woke goes to die. We are in for a special day, but first things first. The official motto of the state of Florida is, "In God we trust." The motto of the United States is, "In God we trust." Therefore, let's start our day and go to the Lord in prayer. Please rise, bow your heads. Heavenly Father, you tell us in Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 3, quote, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to break down and a time to build up." Dear Lord, your enemies have sown seeds and planted evil in the hearts of men. Use us, O Lord, in this time to pluck up and break down the evil that has been planted. As in 1776, use us, Lord, to fight tyranny, fight terrorism, and fight all that is not of you. And in the words of Kate Smith, "And while the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that is free. Let us all be grateful to a land so fair as we raise our voice in a solemn prayer. God bless America." And today, Lord, bless our speakers. Let their words be of you, by you, and for you. And most importantly, Lord, give them a unity of purpose, a purpose that has become abundantly clear in this day, to save the greatest nation that has ever been, the United States of America. We pray all this, dear God, in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, and Jesus Christ. Amen. And now, please help me welcome your National Committee woman and my good friend, Kathleen King, to lead us in the pledge.
Well, good morning, all you freedom-loving Florida Republicans. Yeah. Welcome to the Freedom Summit at the beautiful Gaylord Palms in beautiful Central Florida. It's always a great day to be a Republican, and it's especially a great day to be a Florida Republican today. 1 year from now, Florida will decide if Joe Biden remains president. 1 year from today, well, not today, but a year from now, Florida will decide if Chuck Schumer remains Senate president. And in just about a year from now, Florida will decide if Mike Johnson remains the Speaker of the House. So if you're in this room, we need your help. The RPOF is working hard with the RNC right now, but we need you too. We need you to embrace pre-election day voting by banking your vote early, whether it's by mail or in-person early voting in your county. We need you to step up and to be poll watchers or poll workers. We need to change your mindset and embrace election season in verse of election day. And then we need to work hard all through election season. And election season starts at 7 a.m. when vote-by-mail ballots start being sent out in your county. And then we have to increase our get-out-the-vote efforts and work all through the vote-by-mail balloting period. And then when early voting starts, we got to do that too. And we got to push those Republicans to the ballot box. And then we continue right on to and through election day up till 7 p.m. or the polls close, whichever comes later. And if we do our part, the people will do their part, because we are the best country in the history of the world. And it's our jobs to keep it that way. So please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag, demonstrating our love for this country and our acceptance of the duties of American citizenship. I pledge the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now please give a warm welcome to Israeli-American, American Idol semifinalist, Hadass Levy.
Asa Hutchinson.
I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. We had to watch every penny. And when I became governor, I still watched every penny. It's how I shrunk the size of government, balanced the budget, and left a surplus. We need to do that in Washington. And as president, I will.
Mature, measured, and thoughtful, Asa Hutchinson is the drama-free adult in the room.
I'm Asa Hutchinson, and I approve this message.
Please welcome the 46th Governor of Arkansas and Republican candidate for President of the United States of America, Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Thank you, Florida. What an incredible national anthem that was sung. Let's give her a round of applause. And it's great to be at the Freedom Summit today. Ladies and gentlemen, on a serious note, we are a nation at risk. President Biden's presidency has been a disaster. And yes, his leadership has been as unsteady as his walk along the beach. Biden's economic plan has made it hard for families to make ends meet. Biden's open door policies have threatened our security. His all-green energy plan has undermined our economy, and his weakness abroad has emboldened our enemies. Our economy is struggling. Nations are at war, and the United States leadership is threatened. My friends, it is time for a new direction. It is time for Republican leadership. I am running for President of the United States because we are a nation at risk, and I am the right leader for these perilous times. Many of you know my story. As a federal prosecutor,
I put on a flak jacket to help negotiate the surrender of an armed encampment of terrorists. I successfully prosecuted them in court despite threats and assassination plots. As a member of Congress, I served with great members from Florida, such as now Chief Justice Charles Kennedy, who is on the Judiciary Committee with me. And guess what we did in Congress 20 years ago? We actually balanced the budget. I know how to do it. And it's been a long time since we've been able to do it. I was also a prosecutor of former President Clinton when he was charged with obstruction of justice, and I went to the Senate to try that case. I also served in the Bush administration as former administrator of the DEA. So I understand the fentanyl crisis that we face, and I know how to work with other nations to go after the supply of deadly drugs and to dismantle the cartels. And then I was in charge of border security in the Bush administration. And I will tell you that we didn't get it perfect, but it looks perfect compared to what has happened in the Biden administration. I understand the threat, and I understand what needs to be done. I had to set up the first visa security office in Saudi Arabia. I negotiated with the European Commission on security agreements post 9/11. And I worked to protect America from a terrorist attack after the World Trade Center attack in our country. But one of the highlights of my public career is that I was able to serve as governor of Arkansas for 8 years. And during that time, I proved that you can govern as a conservative. After more than 100 years of Democratic rule in the state, let me repeat that, 100 years of Democratic rule in the state, I signed legislation to lower taxes from 7% down to 4.9%. $700 million a year going from the government coffers back to taxpayers' pockets. I reduced the regulatory burden on our businesses, and we worked to shrink the size of state government, and guess what? I left a $2 billion surplus for my successor, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And while governor, I followed a simple principle that I will also follow as president. I wanted the private sector of our economy to grow faster than the government sector. And it did. I reduced state government employment by 14%, 3,000 fewer workers. And the private sector created more than 100,000 jobs. I protected women's sports by signing a law that said biological men cannot compete in women's sports. And let me assure you, as president, I would sign a law that prohibited permanent change in the gender of our children. I know one of the debates today is about restrictions on abortion. As governor, I signed over 30 pro-life bills that led Arkansas to be recognized as the most pro-life state in the nation. I will be a pro-life president. And during the pandemic, I worked to open schools and businesses, not to close them down. In fact, Arkansas ranked number 2 in the nation in terms of days of in-classroom instruction during the pandemic, second only to Wyoming. And that was good for our school children. I didn't shelter in place, and I did not categorize some businesses as non-essential. Because in my view, if a business provides a job for a family, it is essential. There is no one running for president with the depth of experience I have on the toughest issues facing our country. The number one issue Americans face continues to be the economy, and how their paychecks have been eroded by Biden's inflation and high interest rates. I grew up on the farm, worked in factories, lived in a mobile home, and struggled to make ends meet. Today, our families are struggling, and I will balance the budget, fix the economy, and help our families. That's what Republican leadership will do. And as president, I will unleash energy production in the United States of America. We don't want our president going to Saudi Arabia and saying, "Can you please produce more oil?" We're going to produce energy in this country, and we're going to be energy independent and dominant. And let me tell you, I will support Israel. And I will not push back on Israel as they go after Hamas. What President Biden has done in asking for a pause is putting Israel in a weakened position, and it is wrong. I will strengthen our military, support our veterans. By the way, I love Pensacola. My sister taught at Pensacola Christian Academy, and my brother was married there. Florida not only respects our military, but you are the focal point of our national defense from Pensacola to Tampa to Key West. Thank you, Florida. I will stand up to China. We will compete with China and we will win. We do this militarily, economically, and technology-wise. And we do this partly by expanding computer science education in the United States, as I did in Arkansas. In Arkansas, I started out, we had 1,400 students statewide that took computer science. When I finished, we had 23,000. We have 51% of our high schools that offer computer science right now across America. I'll make it 100% so we can compete with China. When it comes to the fentanyl crisis that we have, I will make our drug czar a cabinet-level position in order to make drug abuse a priority in my administration. And I will empower the DEA as it goes after those who traffic in fentanyl and enforce the law. I will reform federal law enforcement, and it needs reforming. And you can go to asa2024.com and look at my plan, or you can make a donation. But that is my plan to reform federal law enforcement. And I will secure the border by working with our governors and not suing them in court for using a water barrier on the Rio Grande. The cartels will be public enemy number one in my administration, and the Border Patrol will have the resources they need. Now, when you evaluate the candidates, ask yourselves, who has the proven record? Who has done what they promised? And who leads in a way that not only wins the presidency, but also helps carry us to a majority in the House and Senate? I won my last election with 65% of the vote. You don't do that unless you expand the base and win independents. My team has asked me, why should I file in Florida? When you have a former president from Florida and a governor from Florida on the ballot, and when there is a winner-take-all rule for the delegates. Here is the answer to that question. If you are a serious candidate, you need to be in Florida. You have a significant number of delegates, and you will be critical in winning the general election. And second, Florida's primary comes later in time. That means you will be in a better position to decide on the candidates. Your primary comes 2 weeks after Super Tuesday and after the beginning, so it happens, beginning of March Madness. This means you will have more information and perhaps more clarity in all that is going on in the chaos of Trump world. Now, there are some that say we need to wrap this up quickly and consolidate the candidates. I, for one, believe that Florida voters should not be cut out of looking at all the candidates. Who among you today has filled out the March Madness bracket and has already picked the winner? No one. Although we have our favorites, no serious sports writer is arguing that the season should be skipped. And so let's not get in too big of a hurry. The full season must be played out in politics as well as in sports, and the voters will have the final say. Next March not only brings us March Madness, it will also we will witness our justice system at work and on trial in federal and state courtrooms. As someone who's been in the courtroom for over 25 years as a federal prosecutor and also in defending some of the most serious federal criminal cases, I can say that there is a significant likelihood that Donald Trump will be found guilty by a jury on a felony offense next year. That may or may not happen before you vote in March. And it might not make any difference to you, but it will make a difference for our chances to attract independent voters in November. It will make a difference for those down ticket races for Congress and Senate, and it will weaken the GOP for decades to come. As a party, we must support the rule of law. We cannot win as a country without integrity in the White House. And while some will ignore the destructive behavior of the former president, I assure you we ignore it at our own peril. The next generation will not look favorably back on this time. On this day, 43 years ago, November 4, 1980, Ronald Reagan was elected to be the 40th president of the United States. Reagan beat an incumbent president during a time in which there was great uncertainty at home and abroad. The years before, on that election day, the U.S. Embassy in Tehran was stormed and 52 American hostages were taken by force and held captive for 444 days. High inflation and high interest rates threatened the American dream. The man occupying the Oval Office on that day seemed overwhelmed by the job and eclipsed by the times. Does this sound familiar? Between today and the end of March, Republican voters across the country must make new choices to give us the right leader for the GOP. Someone who believes in the party of Lincoln and the party of Reagan. And then we need a new leader in the White House so that we can resume our march to a more perfect union. Florida must lead the way. Florida will have an incredible responsibility next year. Electing the next president will require us to put our differences in the past, and we have a lot of work to do ahead of us. My Susan and I are people of faith, and we trust in the Almighty God to direct the affairs of our nation. And it is important that we put our trust in Him and we put our faith in His leadership and guidance for our country. And God knows we need His providential help today. Thank you, Florida, and may God bless America. Thank you.
I grew up in a tiny town in North Dakota. I literally bet the farm to grow a small business into $1 billion global company, employing thousands. As governor, he took North Dakota from billions in the hole to a surplus while passing record tax cuts.
Small town boy, self-made business leader, remarkable governor, a new leader for a changing economy.
Please welcome business leader and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
Small town in America, we're the backbone, we're the rock this country was built on.
Good morning, Florida. Let me begin with gratitude to the Republican Party of Florida, Christian, all your leadership, all of you that I met last night, all those county chairmen, and especially all of you that are here today. Your dedication of your time and your resources to electing Republicans, the work that all of you do matters. You matter, your enthusiasm, your commitment matters, and in 2024 it matters more than ever. Thank you, Florida GOP. With blue states like California, New York, and Illinois are losing population electoral votes, Republican-led states like North Dakota and Florida are growing. In fact, North Dakota last year had the highest GDP in the nation, the highest GDP per capita among all Republican-led states. Low taxes, freedom and liberty, limited government, and innovation, not regulation, are the keys to economic growth, and people are responding by voting with their feet. Over the last decade, North Dakota and Florida are both among the top 10 states for population growth. But I need to tell you, each January, the sales pitch we use to get families to move to North Dakota is slightly different than you use in Florida. It's not just about a weather. We're basically advertising right now that we've got a shark-free, hurricane-free, anaconda-free, alligator-free. It's very safe in North Dakota. Matter of fact, there are no hotels in North Dakota that actually have alligators inside the hotel, like I saw this morning. But I'm running for president because America needs a 180-degree change in the direction where Joe Biden is taking us. Joe Biden is wrong on the economy, wrong on energy, and wrong on national security. The terrorist attacks in Israel and Russia's invasion of Ukraine are terrible symptoms of Biden's policies, but the disease itself is Joe Biden. It started with a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. It continued with Biden keeping Western Europe completely dependent on Russian energy, which enabled and paid for Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Biden's energy policies helped China and they hurt the U.S. And then just in September, under an ill-conceived 5-person hostage exchange, Joe Biden funneled $6 billion to Iran, the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. The end result? A horrific attack on Israel and, surprise, more hostage taking. That's what happens when you put a $1 billion price tag on Americans' heads. Simply put, Joe Biden's policies, they empower dictators and terrorists throughout the world, and the world is less safe for Americans, and it drives inflation at home. From day one, I focused on 3 interconnected issues that affect every single one of you and every single American. That's the economy, that's energy, and that's national security. If we get these things right, we improve every American life, we unlock the best of America. That's our mission, and that's why we're running. I grew up in a tiny town in North Dakota, 300 people. Woke? That was something we did at 5 a.m. to start the day. I held about every job you can imagine, working on the farm, the ranch, the grain elevator, started a construction company when I was in high school, even paid my way through college working as a chimney sweep. Every job I held was one where you took a shower at the end of the day instead of the beginning. And when I'm your president, we'll have someone who understands and respects the real work that Americans do every day. And that includes everybody in law enforcement and all of our military as well. Respect those. My dad died when I was a freshman in high school. He was a World War II Navy vet. My mom, a widow with 3 kids, went back to work to make ends meet. I understand what Americans are feeling with economic insecurity under Joe Biden. In my mid-20s, I literally bet the farm to help grow a tiny startup into a worldwide $1 billion company. I've been making payroll every 2 weeks since my mid-20s. I've created more jobs than all the other candidates combined. I know what it takes to sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back. We built a company that served customers all over the world. 140 businesses in 132 countries. When I am your president, we'll have someone in the White House who knows what it takes to win in the global economy. That's what we did for decades. And now with technology and AI, it's changing every job, every company, and every industry, and it needs to change the government as well. I know exactly how to do this. I was in the private sector my whole life until 2016. We jumped into a governor's race 60 points down, won the primary by 20, won the general by over 40 points. In 2020, we won again by over 40 points, the largest margin of any governor's race in the country. In our first 4 months in office, we cut $1.7 billion from a $6 billion general fund, more than 25% of the budget, and we kept every train running on time. Yes, you can cut spending and improve services. Yes, it is possible, and it starts with treating you, the taxpayer, like a customer. After cutting spending, we slashed red tape. Just this last year, we passed 51 more red tape reduction bills. We literally crowdsource ideas from our citizens on how we can get government out of their businesses and out of their lives. We've cut taxes every legislative session I've been governor. We provided over $1 billion in additional property tax relief. We've eliminated income taxes for active military and veterans. And last session, we enacted the largest tax cut in state history, and now a majority of our citizens pay no income tax at all. Today, thank you. Today, North Dakota is both growing and getting younger, and we've got the second lowest unemployment and the highest workforce participation rates in the nation. The place we start improving every American life is focusing on the economy. Bidenomics is a set of reckless fiscal policies guided by extreme liberal ideology built into an endless swarm of new and dangerous regulations. High inflation is really a hidden Joe Biden tax. Right now, all of you, every American, inflation is costing the average family $700 more a month. That's $8,400 a year. It's a massive hidden tax hike from Joe Biden. It's hurting everyone, especially those that are living paycheck to paycheck. And if you're part of that lucky half of America that's been able to put away some savings, Joe Biden's inflation has come like a thief in the night. It's stolen nearly 20% of your purchasing power from your savings account. Interest rates are at a 23-year high. They're pushing the American dream of homeownership out of reach for millions. And worse, if Joe Biden had his way, your actual taxes would go up even more, a lot more. His budget called for $4.7 trillion, with a T, trillion, that's 1,000 billion, $4.7 trillion in new and increased taxes. To put that number in perspective, that's over $14,000 of additional taxes for every man, woman, and child in America. We know that Joe Biden's reckless policies actually created the runaway inflation. But now he's bragging that inflation is lower this year than last year. That's like telling someone, hey, congratulations, your pay cut is half of what it was last year. Joe Biden, the mainstream media, are trying to sell America on Bidenomics. America's not buying it. Biden's red tape and regulations are hamstringing job creators with almost unimaginable layers of federal red tape. They're driven by bureaucrats' liberal ideology that defies economics, they defy physics, and they defy common sense. This would never happen if we put someone in the White House, but does what happened when you put someone in the White House like Joe Biden, who's never created a job in the private sector. As your president, I'll fix this crazy economy. We'll get inflation under control. We'll cut taxes. We'll lower gas prices, and we'll help people realize their fullest potential. To stop inflation and to make the U.S. safer and more prosperous, we need to reverse Joe Biden's green fantasy energy policies. On day one of our administration, we will stop buying energy from our enemies, and we'll start selling energy to our allies. America produces energy cleaner and safer than anywhere else in the world. Anyone who actually cares about the environment, actually cares about it, should want every drop and every electron of energy produced here in the United States. When we become truly energy dominant superpower and we support our allies, we will actually prevent wars like the one Putin started in Ukraine. We'll stabilize the globe and we'll restore America as the leader of the free world. Instead, Joe Biden's policies have turned Russia and Iran into China's discount gas station. At the same time, he's subsidizing electric vehicle production with your tax dollars, even though China controls 80% of the world's rare earth minerals needed to make EV batteries. It makes no sense. It's like Joe Biden's energy policies were actually written by China. As governor of one of the largest energy producing states in America, and as a business leader who built multiple global software companies, I understand what it takes for America to win. When we increase energy production, we stop inflation, we grow jobs, and we weaken dictators. Last, we need to recognize the real threats to America and strengthen our national security. And that includes border security, food security, energy security. In a country built on neighbors helping neighbors, we become a country of neighbors fighting neighbors. We need a leader who's going to fight to unite the country against our common enemies like China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and the Mexican drug cartels. It's time for America to have a commander-in-chief who understands how to make America both safer and more prosperous. Without a fundamental change in direction away from Joe Biden, we are headed towards a century dominated by the Chinese Communist Party and an axis of anti-American regimes. With a change, we can usher in an unprecedented era of mass flourishing with breakthroughs in education, healthcare, and more, which will improve every American life. We can create another incredible American century. This moment demands a president focused on unleashing American potential. I understand from all my work in the private sector the economic challenges and the innovation opportunities of this moment. We must also recognize that border security is national security, and our national security is compromised every day that we do not control our own borders. The likelihood that Hamas agents have entered America has increased dramatically over the last 2.5 years. The radical left's support of our open border policy has overwhelmed our defunded Border Patrol and put American people in danger. I've been down to the border more times than Joe Biden. We've had troops from our state down there multiple deployments throughout my time as governor, including flying helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop transnational criminal organizations that are helping drive the mass invasion, 6.5 million people and 300,000. We've lost more than five Vietnams of Americans dying of overdose deaths. I will use all the diplomatic information and military capability to stop that from happening. It took Joe Biden 2 years to get to our southern border. I've been there repeatedly as governor. I'll get there in my first 2 weeks as your president. Ronald Reagan spoke of a shining city on a hill. America need not to be perfect for it to be exceptional. I've had people working for me around the world in all those countries. I've had people working for me that didn't have the right to vote, didn't have the right to free speech, didn't have the right to assemble. I learned as a young person how exceptional our country is and the opportunities that we provide. And our Constitution, it provides the foundation for never-ending work of achieving the historic and aspirational vision presented by our founding fathers. But right now, under Joe Biden, as we're creeping towards World War III, we're in a Cold War with China, we're in a proxy war with Russia, we're in a proxy war with Iran. To defeat those adversaries, we must have a leader who understands the power of free societies and free markets. Ronald Reagan taught us how to win Cold Wars. It starts with having the strongest economy. I remember visiting parts of Eastern Europe just before and after the fall of the Berlin Wall back in the 1980s and in the early 1990s. I actually went through Checkpoint Charlie in the 1980s. I witnessed Poland's transition to a democracy at the dawn of that following decade. I saw entrepreneurs coming out of being suppressed by communist countries and flourishing. It's a reminder. When we think about what Ronald Reagan did, it's a reminder of the power of a president who lifts America up and lifts up freedom and liberty at home and abroad. Ronald Reagan famously told us freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. Sometimes people remember that, but they forget the second part of the quote, and I think it's the most important. Freedom must be fought for and protected, or we'll spend our later years telling our grandchildren what it was like when America was free. All of you are here fighting for freedom. I'm a proven governor and a proven global business leader. I'm a Washington outsider. I actually know how to shrink government and improve services. As your president, I will bring out the best of America, and I will improve every American life. Thank you, Florida GOP. Have a fantastic day.
Country was built on. We're the underdog. We're the little guy with the flag flying.
Do you trust our government and where the economy is heading? Does the thought of losing your hard-earned retirement savings to DC's reckless spending scare the heck out of you? Well, you're not alone. Smart Americans are taking action while they still can by reaching out to Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped concerned Americans protect their futures by moving part of an existing IRA or 401k into a physical gold IRA. Because when things are a mess, like right now, Americans turn to gold. With an A+ rating, with a Better Business Bureau, and thousands of happy customers, Birch Gold is the trusted leader in gold. They're busier than ever because people are taking control of their savings away from the government and into their own hands. Text the word NOW to the number 989898 to get a free info kit on gold. There's no pressure and no obligation, just information. So get your no-cost info kit now. Text NOW to 989898.
Election nights. So, and as you probably know, back in 2010 when I ran, no one thought I was going to win. So that was every election night's been interesting because I've gone through all the Democrats. So thank you very much. You guys have been the best. It's been since I ran in 2010. I can't thank you guys for what you've done. So thanks for having me today. Good morning to everybody. It's great to see so many Republicans here and so many volunteers here. Now, I know some of you, I would go back to my governor time, I know some of you might be visiting from other states. The most important thing you think about is spend your money. That's how we keep this economy going. So now, what I might say to the people from out of state might seem a little controversial, but what I want to say is the state of Florida has the absolute best Republican Party in the nation. You are the best. So I wish my wife was here. and my grandkids would love this. First, I want to highlight Christian Ziegler. He's doing an incredible job running the RPOF, so let's give a big round of applause. But as we know, this is a team sport, so you've got great officers all around the state. Evan Power, your vice chairman. Christie Banks, Mike Moberly, James Campo, Clint Pate. His dad was great. Peter Feynman, who I just saw backstage, and Kathy King. So congratulations to all of them. First off, they and you are doing a fantastic job making sure that we remain the best Republican Party in the U.S. Now think about it. It's because of your hard work that we now have a voter registration advantage of over 620,000 now registered Republicans. So big round of applause for that. You guys have done a great job. So put that in perspective. Let's go back to 2010. We had a deficit of, no one told me this when I first started running, by the way, 569,000. There were 569,000 more Democrats and Republicans back when I ran in 2010. But it's because of your hard work that we're able to win. And I want to thank everybody, Christian, your whole team, all the volunteers for doing this. You're not just changing Florida, you're changing the country. Because if we can win nationally because of Florida, if we win Florida constantly, we're going to win nationally constantly. So thank you very much. The other thing, I want to thank everybody here that supports the RPOF and all the volunteers, because this is a team sport. This would not happen without you. And it's really important that all of you continue to support the RPOF. They need to be in a position financially and with all their volunteers to be in a great place for 24, because everybody that's running, it makes a difference how well funded the party is. Now, it's always a great day to be in Florida, and here's why. It means we aren't up in Washington, D.C., where Mitch McConnell and a few Republicans, the Democrats, Chuck Schumer, they're going to pass some new spending bill. You know, the way it works up there is Joe Biden wakes up and he says, I think we ought to spend money this way. And so they come over to the Senate, Schumer brings it up, and we go pass it. And think about it, it takes now, this year 9, but the first 2 years of Biden took 10 Republicans to get anything passed, and they did. So now let's go through what's happening right now under Democratic control. An open border, completely open border. Anything you've been down there is completely open. Thousands of terrorists, criminals and drugs pouring across our country. They're all just coming in, it's completely open. So I don't know if you saw this week in Homeland Security Committee, FBI Director Christopher Wray, I asked him, I don't know if you guys saw the clip. So I said, is America safer under Biden? You know his response was, how can I say this without saying the wrong thing for Biden? So think about this. The man who runs the FBI couldn't say we're safer. That's pretty scary. I mean, I told my daughters, I said, you should think about this every day. You know, we all worry about our families. I said, you just have to think. Our border's open. Look at what happened to Israel. So it could happen here. So we got a botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Think about it. We stranded thousands of Americans behind enemy lines, took the lives of, and this didn't need to happen. 13 heroic U.S. service members died. We left billions of dollars of military equipment behind. Now some of that's reportedly being used by Hamas in their raid against Israel and in their still attacking the IDF. And by the way, let me tell you a story about this. This is anybody that's been in the service. My service tags, we have 2 service tags and they're not shaped like this, but this service tag was given to me by 2 parents. They're American families that their kids grew up in the States and they joined the IDF. So outside our office, we put a poster of all the hostages. I don't think at the White House they have that. But the top is Hebrew, and they came to me, their kids grew up and they joined the IDF, and they were captured the first night, and they haven't heard from them. So 2 people have told me different things. It says the hostages or their hearts are in Gaza and bring them home now. And don't you wish we had a president that would do that? So we got a military that's more focused on pronouns and being lethal. We got the complete destruction of women's sports. Did you see that thing? The clip came out where I think it was a lacrosse game that a male played women's sports and really sent this little girl to the hospital. People getting paid not to work. Now think about a guy that ran on getting jobs back. I don't think that makes sense. We got crime rampant all across our country. People break the laws and there's no enforceability. We got a nation where criminals have more rights than victims. We appease our dictators. You got murderous dictators. They're eroding freedom, democracy, stability around the world. And does our president stand up and say, no way? No, he says, let's go over and say hi. So Schumer just went over there. So now Israel's under attack and at war, and Joe Biden is reduced. Well, think about it. He reduced oil sanctions, and they gave Iran $6 billion, and he can't talk about it. He can't talk about hostages. So we know Israelis and Americans have been tortured and killed. I was at one of the kibbutz about a half mile from Gaza in 2019 with my wife, and there were babies beheaded there. I talked to a lady that gave us the tour. She said that basically everybody on her street was killed. I mean, this is all at the hands of Iran. It's Iran-backed terrorists. So we got a president who can barely even talk about the Americans held hostages. You saw that when he did his little talk, he talked about for 50 minutes. He spent 15 seconds on our hostages, and he's talked about Ukraine 23 times. So he ought to be in the Situation Room saying, how the hell do I get these hostages home every second? Instead, he's doing Green New Deals, went on the beach in Delaware. So think about it. His State Department admitted that if we give money to Gaza, it goes to Hamas. They admitted it. His State Department, not Trump's, his State Department. They said it's likely to go to Iran-backed terrorists. And they said, okay. They said we should, think about it, we should be, when you see this stuff, you think, how could that happen? I've been up there 5 years, you say, how can we be doing these things? So I filed a bill, and here it's really difficult to understand. It seems pretty logical. It says we are not going to give money to Hamas. Real controversial, right? So I went down the Senate. Yeah. So I went, now who could vote against that, right? So I go down the Senate floor, and guess what? Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer blocked it. So it just said, it was like one page. It says, all they have to do is say, we're not going to give American taxpayers to Hamas. But it failed. I mean, you can't make this stuff. So here's my deal. We need to talk about the atrocities. We need to talk about what happened, and we've got to support Israel. And we've got to make sure they completely destroy Hamas. So somebody said, oh gosh, they said, oh, we need to have a ceasefire. I agree. We ought to have a ceasefire the moment after every Hamas terrorist is dead. One of my grandsons was somebody was telling him about how we got to worry about the Palestinians, and so I explained to him. I said, what would he's got a little sister. I said, what would happen if somebody came and did something mean to your little sister? Would you just say, well, let's just stop doing anything else? No, you have to stand up, and thank God they're doing it. Now Biden, instead of talking about our hostages, he brings out he has an unserious proposal. He wants to leak Israeli aid to a bunch of other things, okay, including bailout for sanctuary cities. Not secure the border. We got to give New York, Boston, places like that more money so they can open up more hotels. It makes you mad. Mitch McConnell, think which side he's on. The Biden side, the Chuck Schumer side. But guess what? We invited Mike Johnson, the new speaker. Yep. We invited him over to lunch last week, and Mike Lee, Ron Johnson, and I did, and he said, absolutely not. So we are going to do whatever we can to get money to Israel. So what we're demanding, I'm demanding, and a lot of us on the Senate, we're demanding a clean vote just on the aid to Israel. It's already passed the House. Thank God for Speaker Johnson. But here's what they're going to try to do. Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, some others, they're going to try to tie it all together because they're hell-bent on helping, Ukraine give money to more money for sanctuary cities and a variety of other things. But I want Ukraine to win, but we need to have it completely separate. We need to make that as a separate decision. So here's the deal. We can all be, oh gosh, we can all be grim and say this is not going to get fixed, but it is. And think about it, we haven't mentioned the economic collapse that Biden has done. Look at inflation, look at interest rates. Have anybody bought a house? I was just meeting with the realtors. Interest rates for a home are now over 8%. All right? But this is what you get. This is what you get if Democrats are in charge. You get everything falls apart. Now, does anybody ever think Joe Biden's lucid enough to even know what's going on? I don't know. So I think he's become an embarrassment to his own party, but he's also embarrassment to our position in the world. But look, it didn't just stop with Democrats. We have Republicans in Washington who cave into the Democrats, right? Think about it. They couldn't have passed the infrastructure bill without Republican votes. They couldn't have passed the CHIPS bill without Republican votes. They couldn't have passed the stupid omnibus bill without Republican votes. So last year, so this was not the easiest thing I did. Not the most, I didn't make all the friends in the world, but I ran against McConnell. So, he'd never, ever been challenged before. Never, all right? So think about it. With him in charge, we are not fighting for conservative policies. And there's one person, it's Mitch McConnell. He organized it to where they got what they wanted, all those bills. Now look around the room and go around the country. We've got a thriving Republican Party. I mean, we're doing unbelievable. But we got a Republican Party in Florida, all across the country. So guess what? Shouldn't we have one in D.C.? That would be nice. Well, I think we've got one with Mike Johnson as Speaker. You know something that you should be really proud of. So I think we're all very supportive of Israeli aid, the aid to Israel. But guess what? He made sure it was paid for. That's smart. They haven't been doing that. They say, oh, we like this, we're just going to borrow more money. So think about it. Running against McConnell, it did make me a lot of new friends. Some people said I'm the least popular politician in Washington. I never called myself a politician, by the way. But look, I take that as a badge of honor. Because how many of us are happy with what's going on in D.C.? We're not. We shouldn't be. So, look, I'm going to take on anyone. I want to tell everybody, I represent Florida, all right? And you should represent your state, your district, but I'm going to do what's right. I tried to do it. I started that way when I ran in 2010. I'm going to represent every family in this state. And we're going to do the right things for our states, and you should do the right thing for your state. So here's what's happened. I didn't win. Unfortunately, I didn't win. But no, it couldn't happen in the United States. But the election was supposed to be in January. You know when it was? The day after I announced I was going to run against him. Could not happen here, right? But look, we didn't win, but we showed the establishment that we're not going to sit back. And we're not going to let them destroy this country. We are not. So we said in that ad, we are not going to let them destroy our country. They're trying. So what did Ronald Reagan say 40 years ago? He came up with the phrase, it's going to be morning in America. That's how we should think about it. It's all up to us. Back in what was that, 1980? It resonated back then. And people for all walks of life were saying, we cannot stand the Carter years. Well, they were saying that today with the Biden years. So I said to my ad, Ronald Reagan, you almost say George Washington, you say, they wouldn't recognize this country, right? Right? So some people say, is this the beginning of the end? It's not. It's only the beginning of the end if we let it be. If we stop fighting every day, if we cede our country to the incompetent, crazy Democrats, who they just don't believe in the true fabric of this country and our values, then we lose. But think about it. We turned Florida around. We had problems back in 2010. We turned it around by working together. It wasn't one person that did it. We all did it together. So I've always been an optimist. So I've always believed that we can do this. We can return us to the rightful position of the economic and military powerhouse and the undisputed moral leader of the free world. But it's going to start with winning in the White House. We have to win the White House. We have to. By the way, we have given so much power to the executive branch. We should never do that. But we've got to win the White House. We got to get a Republican majority in the Senate, and we got to get a bigger majority in the House. We will. Now, you might have seen that I endorsed President Trump on Thursday. You can imagine he liked the phone call, right? He did. He's fun. So I made the decision because I believe, I don't think there's any question in my mind, he is the one person running that can really bring strength back to our country. Now, we all get to make our own choices. So I think it's great today. You're going to have a great opportunity. You're going to see all these great candidates. But one thing's clear. Every one of them is better than Biden. So of incumbents in the Senate, Ted Cruz and I have the hardest races. So both of us are up this next year. And so each of our races, we're critical to get a majority. Now we've got other opportunities. We've got opportunities in West Virginia, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Michigan, in Montana, in Arizona, in Nevada. I talked to a great candidate in Washington yesterday. But in my case, I'm running against a radical socialist from Miami. Guess who picked her? Chuck Schumer. So guess how much Chuck Schumer spent against me last time? $65 million. Now, he tried to get some celebrities and some NBA players to run against me, but they, I guess, had some sense. So I don't think many of you probably have heard of her, and most people haven't, and I doubt that anybody will. But here's all you need to know about her. Who do you think she's voted 100% with? Nancy Pelosi. 94% with Ilhan Omar. I don't think she'd win in Florida. 93% with AOC. And guess who she takes selfies with? Tlaib. So she refuses to condemn her friends in the squad for their support of Hamas. Can you think about this? Who in their right mind would support people that mutilate babies? I mean, like you just say to yourself, who could do that? And why would you have hatred toward Israel or hatred toward a Jewish population? I don't care what party you are, okay? But we've got to do everything we can to call Hamas for what it is, and don't stop. We need to say exactly what they did. They murdered babies. They shot people point blank. It's just unbearable barbarian terrorism against innocent people. So I'm going to fight anti-Semitism. I'm going to stand up for Israel. I hope everybody here does the same thing. I don't think we ought to support businesses that don't believe our way, right? And if you don't support Israel, I'm not going to support you. So right after October 7th, somebody told me that the Starbucks Workers Union came out and support Hamas. Yep. So I called for a boycott of Starbucks. They called and said, well, we don't really want to respond to this. I said, great, I'm just going to get everybody I can to boycott you until you do. So it took them a few hours, but finally they came out and they said they didn't support it. So think about it. How many times you want to go get a barista and say, oh, who do you support? They ought to have this and this and this. This is what they ought to have. So my understanding, they did finally, it took them all day, but they finally put their statement out, and I heard now they're suing their union, so which is what they should have done for the same thing. What about our college campuses? When I went to school, first off, my mom would have been so mad at me. I don't know if many of you met my mom. She was work. She had standards. Here's who you should admire. Ben Sasse, new president of the University of Florida. He's been relentless in support of Israel. He's called out terrorist sympathizers, and he's told every Jewish student at the University of Florida he's going to make sure they feel safe. That's what every college president should do. Everybody should be doing that. So, if you donate to charities or organizations, don't give money if they don't support Israel and if they support Hamas. Here's what's neat. I've called some of these donors big donors to University of Pennsylvania and to Harvard, and they've cut funding because their leadership at these universities won't even say that it's wrong what their students are doing. So, and then we got employers like Sweet Greens and Davis Polk that are saying, if you support Hamas, you are not coming to work here. Now, we don't see Democrats doing this, do we? So which side are they on? So we have to have big wins next year. We're going to have big wins next year. We're on the right side of the issues. So let me just finish with this. I'm a poor kid that grew up in public housing, and I built a career in business because I know the most important thing you do is get people a job. That's why I ran on 10. You guys gave me a big opportunity when you supported me back in 2010 when none of you knew me. And I'm very appreciative. I think my wife is still appreciative too. I only was governor because of you, right? And I'm only in the Senate because of you. You know, you guys are the ones that got people out to the polls. You busted your butt to get people out there to tell them what I believed in. As you know, in the 2018 race, we had to win 3 times. On election night, my oldest grandson, August, he said, Grandpa, he was 7. He said, Grandpa, am I going to be on television? Grandpa, I want to be on television. I want my friends to see me on television. I said, August, whatever happens tonight, you're going to be on television. So we won by 57,000 votes. We announced it. So that was great. And now to put that in perspective for a second, I'm the only Republican that won in the Senate in a swing state in the country in 18 because of you. So the next day, Mark Elias, the Democrat lawyer, comes down. He says, we're going to win through the courts. We won because of you. 7,000 volunteers, 1,000 lawyers, and we kicked their butts. So thank you for this opportunity. I will do anything I can. If you don't have my cell phone number, somebody close to you has it. So give me a call. I love to campaign with you. I want anybody out there running. I wish you the best of luck, and we are going to have a great 2024. Have a great night. Dave, bye-bye.
And hope go hand in hand. Give, Send, Go, the leader in online fundraising.
Gentlemen, please welcome retired Green Beret and Florida State Senator Jay Collins.
He's got the red, white, blue, brown high on the farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spend a little more in the store for a tag in the back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so exciting to be here today. First off, thank you for taking the time to be here. Moments like these matter. I'd like to thank Christian and Evan and all of the volunteers working so hard to put this together. What an exceptional event. Let's give it up for them a little bit, please. Now, I'm sure many of you are wondering, who in the heck is this guy, right? Obviously, I'm not a hair model, and no, I'm not running for president of the United States. But if you'll bear with me, I'd be happy to answer a little bit of those questions. I am Jay Collins. You saw the video from when we ran. But let me explain my background and kind of my why and how we got into this. I was born to an underage mom. I was born addicted to drugs. I was raised by my grandparents and adopted at 7 years old. I was raised on our generational family farm, which we ended up losing coming out of the 80s like many farmers because the economy just didn't work. Failed leadership failed my family. And what we did is sell a farm that we were going on the 3rd generation for pennies on the dollar. Later on, I had the opportunity to join the military because my grandfather, my dad, raised me on the stories and the history of our military because he was a D-Day Mistrop. I spent 23 years in the Army, most of it as a Green Beret. So I know Rick Scott was just here. Thank you. We're gonna go with Go Army, Be Navy. There you go. I was blessed with many opportunities. A couple of the ones that I'm most proud of are this. You never know what you can accomplish until you have to solve that problem. I was put in a position in Afghanistan where I had to save my own arm. to perform surgery on myself in a combat environment. I have 2 hands, 1 leg, so we must have done pretty good. Never thought it was possible until we had to do it. Later on, I was given the opportunity to requalify as a Green Beret after losing my leg. Well, technically, I didn't lose it. I mean, I know where it is. It's just not with me anymore, right? I was extremely grateful to have been a small part of a truly amazing tribe. Now, I'm a leader in the nonprofit sector. We feed people after natural disasters. We give back to communities, and we use food, comfort food, to draw people together. And I'm blessed to represent my home, a place where I'm going to grow up, and my children are going to grow up, and I'm going to grow old. I see you guys. Keep smiling, Colt. I love you, buddy. You know, but these are all part of who I am. But the 2 titles I really love and care about the most are husband and dad. My wife, Layla, she herself is a 20-year veteran, and my 2 boys, Gabe and Colt. Why don't y'all stand up? I know. Dad did it again. I love you guys. I want to share a little bit of a story here about Layla. And this is really important because the focus is on what I want to talk about as we go into this. It's about sacrifice. When I was a Walter Reed, unsure if I was going to walk, run, jump, be a Green Beret, be able to be an active dad, my wife said, my family needs me. I'm going to sacrifice my career as a senior counter-intel agent in all the Army Special Operations to make sure I can take care of my family. So she retired while I was trying to find a way to get on my leg and get up on my feet and requalify. But friends, that is what we have done as Americans. We sacrifice for our family, for our friends, for our community, and we move forward. I can never thank her enough for her kindness. Let's give it up for Layla again. When I tell you I didn't dream of politics, I don't think I can state it enough. I spent 23 years as an Army Green Beret. I envisioned being on a boat in the Gulf, scuba diving and fishing with my kids. So the question I normally get asked is, you seem like you're somewhat well-adjusted, not a great haircut, a little bit of a beard game. Why on earth did you get into politics and run for office? Well, that's a great question. Like many in the military, we observed the debacle in Afghanistan. It gutted me. I had interpreters, friends, people that I had served with in that country calling me, screaming, crying, upset because they were trapped and their family was being tortured. But that wasn't why I got into this. It just helped make my decision that much more profound. How many of you have ever had that moment in life when your children use words that you said against you? Bring it back up. Man, I did. Done it a couple of times now. I was talking to our children about the election, about what Biden could do to the economy, how it could affect our lives. And my son, who's now 11, said, "Dad, you're complaining. What are you going to do about it?" Because I drill into them. That's right. Don't complain unless you have a solution. Obviously, it was a cacophony of different emotions. Obviously, pride, because he listened, right? You needed affirmation. 2, it was frustration that I was failing to live up to my own expectations. But lastly, it was resolve. Resolve to get moving and continue to serve a nation that we love. If I was willing to die in a nation that was not my own, working with people that I didn't know, why would I not do all that I could to protect and preserve this nation at this time for my family right here at home? Retired General Jimmy Doolittle once said, "Nothing is as strong as the heart of a volunteer." He was and is absolutely right. Since the very birth of this nation, America has been driven by the heart of a volunteer. Leaders who understood the power of neighbors helping neighbors. Our forefathers volunteered to stand against tyranny from a cane across the sea. They fought for and created a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. a nation forged with a daring belief that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Friends, as American citizens, we have a responsibility, both profound and simple, and that is to protect and preserve those freedoms, those things we hold to be true and self-evident for our children, just as our forefathers did for us. Many of us have called them conservative values, but we don't own them. Friends, those are the American values. Those are the values that made this nation what it is, the nation we fell in love with, the nation that we were willing to die for. Those values were there when we forged a nation at Yorktown. They were there in the earthworks of New Orleans. They were there among the poppies of Flanders Fields. They were there at the cliffs of Point du Hoc. They were there frozen at the Chosin River in Korea. They were soaked in the rice paddies of Vietnam, and they were there for 2 decades in the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan. And they're here today in this room with patriots, volunteers like yourselves, who give your most precious commodity, time, to protect and preserve the nation that you love. Throughout my own military career, I was blessed to volunteer several times. I volunteered to join the Army. I volunteered to test the theory of gravity and jump out of a perfectly good airplane as a paratrooper. I volunteered to earn my Green Beret. I volunteered for a special missions unit, and I even volunteered to keep doing those things after I lost my left leg. But along this journey, I was afforded the opportunity to work with true heroes. Many of those people we buried in Arlington or in their neighborhood cemeteries. And I ask you, friends, today, who do you remember? Who have you seen that paid that ultimate price? Would they be happy with the course of our nation, or would they need volunteers and leaders like us to step up and fight for what we believe in? Today isn't about my story, though. I share bits of it to get to a simple point. It's the very first and most profound lesson I learned as a Green Beret. It was shared with me as I was checking in to SFAS. I know the military loves acronyms. Please bear with us. That is Special Forces Assessment and Selection. We jokingly call it the School for Advanced Suffering. The cadre looked like he was 70. I found out after the fact he was 27. He looked like he had been ridden hard and put away wet, to use a horse analogy. When he talked, it sounded like he had just smoked 20 Pall Malls and eaten glass for lunch. And he said something in this gruff, gravelly, somewhat angry voice. Son, if you don't figure anything else out, understand this. You have always got to leave things better than you got it. That is what we're trying to do. How many of you believe this nation is currently living up to its full potential? Anybody? Yeah, me too. Given the state of the world, we have some work to do. This is the world where Biden's regime handed over $7 billion in cash, equipment, and weapons to our enemy. Friends, the world took note. Our enemies grew bold, and they started making plans. They muzzled our children, causing years of educational and emotional harm. They've driven inflation through the roof, with an average American losing $7,000 in spending power. And they've caused and stood idly by while our border is overrun by illegal immigrants with fentanyl in tow. Under the Biden regime, many cities defunded our brave men and women in law enforcement, placing these community heroes at risk. He has continually divided our nation, finding every potential way to divide us by race, creed, color, gender, economics. But friends, I got news for you. We are one people. We are all God's children, and we are all citizens of these United States. The world we live in is the price of failed leadership. Now, I've had a few more, what I'll call seasoned friends. They've made more trips around the sun. Ask me, aren't you afraid to raise your children in today's world? And my response is always the same. Heck no, I'm not. Because if we're gonna raise our children and they're gonna have to slay a dragon, friends, we had better start prepare our children to go slay that dragon, give them the tools that they need to get that job done when that time is asked. What we teach our children today will be the reality of our nation tomorrow. With all of this in focus, once I got into the political world, there was only one way to jump in. That's feet and knees in the breeze. You're either in or you're out. So we got in. I ran for office focused on economy, education, and security. So that's what we got to work doing. As a freshman senator, I was blessed to have Kathleen Pasadomo offer me the opportunity to be the chairman of the Ag Committee, knowing the loss my family had gone through and how meaningful it was. I was blessed to help protect and preserve agriculture at a time when it's on the ropes. We're stabilizing, revitalizing, and growing agriculture because agriculture is a national security issue. We must make the economic model of agriculture work. Thank you. I was blessed to get to carry the constitutional carry bill and claw back, thank you, and claw back individual freedoms as opposed to ceding less for the first time in decades. Later, I was given the opportunity to help take some of our best practices as Green Berets to our schools and map them and make them safer. So when we can't be there to protect and preserve our children, they're as safe as they can be because we're investing in their safety. Now, you've heard a few of the speakers around me and before me talk, and I learned a couple lessons. One of those is that we must take our enemy at their word. When China, Iran, Russia, Syria, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba express their hate for this nation, they mean what they're saying, and we should take them serious. China is on a new long march. Russia has invaded Ukraine, and Iran continues to drive terror across this planet. The terrorist thugs of Hamas attacked our closest ally, and they've ensured that members of their tribe, of Hamas and the terrorists, are doing all of the dirty tricks to God's people and our allies. And we have to remember who we are. I'm grateful to have helped ensure members of the CCP can't buy property, because in Florida, we decided we had to punch back. We also made sure that the other countries are concerned, they can't buy agriculture land, and they cannot buy anything within 10 miles of vital infrastructure, airports, spaceports, seaports. So what do we do now? Where do we go from here? As a nation, I would submit that we have to remember who we are. We have to focus on those things that got us here, those ideas, ideals, and principles. The world is a safer place when America is strong, we have a strong leader, and we lead from the front. The values we love are not limited to those who volunteer to fight our nation. These values exist in our law enforcement and first responders and their selfless service to the community. Friends, we must unequivocally have their backs, make sure they have the time, tools, and training necessary to complete their mission, but more importantly, they have to get home to their families safe. We must stand with our law enforcement. Right now, likely at this very moment, we have parents volunteering to coach their children's teams or planning for next year's PTA functions. We must protect those things we hold dear, and that's our children. We have men and women building businesses, serving the community. We must continue to build jobs that matter, drive economic development and manufacturing in this great nation. We have farmers working from dawn till dusk to feed this great nation. If you eat food, you depend on agriculture. We can't cede that to countries that don't like us. And friends, all of them are working to leave things better than they got it. That is the nation we know, and that is the nation we love. We must be courageous. Winston Churchill once said that courage was the most important quality of all because it guaranteed the rest. It's not just physical courage to charge a bunker. It's the equally important moral courage to stand up for what's hard and right, no matter the odds. We must display candor to use our voice and speak the truth, no matter the cost. And we must have an iron-forged commitment to finish things, no matter how difficult. In the immortal words of the great 80s and 90s philosopher, Rocky Balboa, The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a mean and nasty place. I don't care how tough you are. It'll beat you to your knees and keep you there if you let it. It ain't about how hard you can get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That is how winning is done. That is the spirit of America. I've been a soldier. I've been the husband of a soldier. I waited at home worried while my wife deployed. I often ask myself, what are those things we're fighting for? What are those things I value? And friends, it's simple. It's our family, friends, the community, our state, and this nation that we love. Those are the same things we fight for today, even if the battlefield has changed. We must work hard to overcome those obstacles in front of us, but I want to share a couple of simple things. I often wondered, why did I lose my leg? Why did I get injured? I quickly learned it's because it isn't about me. It's about we the people of the United States. I had things being placed in my life to prepare me for what's next. And this is a big point. As Green Berets, we call ourselves quiet professionals. What I learned was this: quiet and silent are never the same thing. When you're silent, people speak for you. Friends, we've had enough of people doing that. But when you're quiet, people wait to hear you speak. We know what right looks like. We have a voice, and we must use that. We cannot let others speak for us. Thank you. We often call the World War II generation the greatest generation, but friends, it wasn't the war that made them the greatest. It was what they did after, in raising a nation, creating the behemoth, the nation that we fell in love with. They stood up and created what we love. Now this is our time. We cannot fail, we will not fail, because our children and the future of this nation depends on leaders like you and people like you across this great nation. Like each of you, I do not believe that our nation's best days are behind us. When I look at crowds like this and I hear Americans speak, that fire is in their belly. It's in their soul. They are ready to do what is necessary to protect and preserve this nation, just like each of you. And because of that, those best days are ahead of us. Make sure you support people up and down the ballot. Every race matters as we move forward. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the guy not running for president today. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless these United States. Thanks.
He's got the red, white, blue, blind hound farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spent a little more in the store for a tag, and the back it says USA.
Canada's race toward the White House, America hopes for a clean and fair election. But do your kids understand what that means? It's why my team created the Kids Guide to the Presidential Election. As your kids read it, they'll discover how elections are won and how to ensure that every legal vote is counted and what happens when they're not. All future voters need this guide, and you can have it for free.
To order this free election gift bundle, just visit freeelectiongift.com. That's freeelectiongift.com.
Florida Sheriff and Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida's Agriculture Commissioner, Workhorse Wilton Simpson.
Please welcome the best damn agriculture commissioner of the great state of Florida, conservative workhorse Wilton Simpson.
Good morning. This is going to be a great opportunity for me today because I got such a great audience here. Everyone always asks me, where is Trilby from? Where am I from, right? I'm from Trilby. And it's kind of like, well, where is Trilby, Florida, right? It is in Florida. And to clear it up today, I'm going to let you know it's right beside Lacucci, Florida. By the way, and you know, it was a real honor to serve. I served in the Florida Senate for 10 years. That was my first elected office in 2012. And of course, I served as Senate President during the pandemic. and that's where we got our moniker of the free state of Florida. But I was proud of a lot of things in that time. But if you go back from when Senator Scott now was Governor Scott in 2010 till today, and you look at the balance sheet and the budget of the state of Florida, and I was there for most of this time from 2012 forward. In that period of time, we cut over $13 billion of taxes off your taxes. In 2010, we had $30 billion of debt. Today, we have less than $16 billion of debt. We paid down to $14 billion of debt. When you look at what's the significance of that number of debt? $16 billion is still a lot of money. The state of New York, with 2.5 million less people than the state of Florida has, 3 million less people, has over $160 billion of debt. And we had $22 billion in reserves. I was very proud of that because as we left after the pandemic, the previous high watermark was probably $5 billion. We left with $22 billion in reserves. So we left a pristine and clean balance sheet. During my last 2 years, we did a lot of things in the Senate, and I'm going to talk about agriculture mostly, but we passed the largest school choice bill in the history of the state at the time. We gave parents rights to raise their children the way they see fit and did not let bureaucrats put masks on our children. And we certainly do not let boys play in girls' sports in the state of Florida any longer. We were very proud of all those things, and then I was very blessed and fortunate to get elected to your Commissioner of Agriculture last November, and thank you for that. Obviously, it was a historic win that the cabinet received. There was 60-40 for everyone, and we had a great team, and we're very proud of it, and thank you again for that. When you think about agriculture, I look at agriculture as a national security issue. I've been talking about it as a national security issue since the beginning, since I was elected to the department. And you think, well, why is that national security? We don't always think of food as a national security issue. And I remind people that we all in this room know that oil is a national security issue. We have strategic supplies all over this country in case there's a war over oil in the Middle East, in case there's a major disruption of supply. Now, we know Biden has played games with our strategic supply, but that's another story. But we know oil is a national security issue for those reasons. What if, with your food supply, if there were no food in the grocery store for just 1 week? You'd have complete chaos in this country. What if it were a month? You'd have people starving to death. And just so everyone here knows, the United States of America 30 years ago was a net exporter of food. Today, we are a net importer of food. And when you think about the significance of that, the pandemic taught us a lot of things about our supply chains. Couldn't buy semiconductors, so you couldn't buy a car for 4 and 6 months. Used cars went through the roof. Biden inflation, how that's affected us. We cannot ever depend on our foreign enemies for our food and our food supply. And so we did many things when I was in the Senate. I'm going to mention a few of those. And then we did many things this last year working with the legislature to guarantee a supply chain from our food resources in the state of Florida that we could count on. And remember that when we talk about agriculture, it's the second leading driver of the economy. During the pandemic, agriculture was the leading driver of the economy. During recessionary times, it is the leading driver of the economy. Over 2.5 million people are employed in agriculture and over $180 billion a year output. And so we're very proud of not only what we represent from the notion, we have to eat every day, 3 times a day, but the reality is it's a leading driver of the economy also. One of the bills we passed and worked on during my Senate presidency was the Right to Farm bill. It hadn't been updated in 60 years. And under the Right to Farm bill, we changed 2 things in that bill. We had a lot of foreign operatives. We had a lot of people from out of the state that were suing your farmers and basically trying to shut them down. Again, we can't live without our farmers. So we were taking these hurdles out of the way. In the Right to Farm bill, we said a couple of things. If you're going to sue a farmer today on a nuisance lawsuit, you have to live within a half a mile of them. So that eliminates almost everyone that's going to sue. And then secondly, when the farmer wins the lawsuit, and inevitably they most always do, that person then has to pay the farmer's attorney fees. That sort of put a death knell in those kinds of things. When you think about the wildlife corridor here in the state of Florida, as president, I championed the ideal of putting the wildlife corridor in place. The wildlife corridor, for everyone who doesn't know, if you Google a map of the state of Florida at nighttime, you will see all the beautiful lights in the state of Florida. Everywhere it's dark on that map is the wildlife corridor. Everywhere it's dark on that map is where animals traverse the state from Monroe County to Pensacola. Everywhere it's dark on that map is where your aquifer gets recharged, and everywhere on that map it's dark is where we grow your food substantially. So we're very proud to have that defined. This last year, the Senate leadership and House leadership put, I believe, $800 million towards areas within that corridor, and we have to have that as a matter of not allowing growth to come in on our farmers. It's very important. In the Department of Agriculture, we have a section called Rural and Family Lands. And the rural and family lands, the lands that we buy, by the way, we don't buy land in rural and family lands, we buy development rights. We want that property to stay in private hands. When it stays in private hands, it stays on your local tax roll, supporting your local systems. When it stays in private hands, we don't have to come back a few years later and get more money to take care of the land that we just bought. And I think it's kind of ridiculous that the state would own that much land in the first place. So under your rural and family lands, since we've started as Senate President, I put $300 million in that program. We've spent nearly $200 million of that. We're going to go back to the legislature and continue to take down our development rights on our agricultural land as farmers and these generational farmers want to do so. 6 months ago, we opened that program up for the first time in 5 years, and we have over $1.5 billion of opportunities to buy development rights from your ag community as we sit here today. Farmers each year go to the legislature and we lobby for certain sales tax that we want to take off of items that we have to purchase every day. And we do that, and then when you get to the store to enjoy your sales tax, you had to fill out several pieces of paperwork to be entitled to your sales tax break. So a lot of times, unless it was a larger purchase, you wouldn't take the time to do that. And then retailers had to fill out paperwork and send it through the state system. Starting January the 1st, we will have a card that looks similar to a driver's license that you'll keep in your wallet when you go to make your purchases. You'll be able to show your card and you will get your sales tax break with no questions asked. That's going to help your local farmers. A couple of other things in the division that I'll mention that we do. Our consumer services division is a very large part of the department. A few months ago, with the help of the legislature changing the laws, we did what we called Operation Candy Crush, where we took, if you went into these stores, it looked like Skittles and candies and all that was high THC that were being sold to our children. The legislature made it very clear that we were not going to tolerate that any longer, and we've taken over 100,000 packages out of local stores to protect our children. And when I say they look like Skittles, you couldn't tell the difference. And if you open the package, kids would take these Skittles to school. There were over 2,000 children in the hospital last year from these type of episodes. And one Skittle might be 3 doses of the recommended medicine. So the legislature empowered us to take care of those things. Those have been done. In the last couple of weeks, we had a 5-ton bust of what they call the gas station heroin. We're getting rid of these poisons that's infecting our society and getting rid of them out of our hands of our children. We're very proud of that. Our ag law has really stepped up. We have a new colonel, Colonel Adams. In January, he's doing a great job. In the last several months, I'll just mention a few of the accolades. One of them was we found over 150 stolen semi-trailers in just the last few months. They have caught so many drugs and things coming into our state. Last week, we had more arrests than any other week in the history of the department. And so we're very proud of our ag law for the work they're doing in and around the state, and they're keeping us safer as a state. We're making sure that the commerce coming in the state should be here in the state. One of the last 2 things I'll mention lastly, this last year, working with your legislature, we had Elizabeth Warren type liberals wanting to track our gun sales in this state. They were wanting to put an MCC code attached to ammunition sales or gun sales. Your department, working with the legislature this year, said that if you do that in the state of Florida, it can be up to a $10,000 per event fine. Many other states have taken up that now. We've essentially quashed that in the United States. Credit card companies don't like their commerce in one state to be different than another state. So we're very proud of the fact that we're protecting our gun rights and gun owners. Fuel theft. When you think about fuel theft, the last year we worked with the legislature. In the old days, you would stick your credit card in and they would have a scanner that would take your numbers and they would hijack your credit card and use it to steal from you. Now, the more sophisticated way today is using technology to put up to a fuel tank, and it'll show that they put 25 gallons in a bladder bag of some sort or a tank when they really took 500 gallons or 1,000 gallons of fuel. We've had 4 major busts in the last 30 days, 45 days, and that's due to the legislature's ability to let us to have the ability to do it, and our ag law, working with local sheriffs, are taking down these criminals. We're saving the fuel buyers of the state of Florida millions of dollars annually by those busts, and we're very proud of that. And what I will say is we live in a world with a lot of troubles. What happened to Israel just about 3 weeks ago is the crime of our time. To compare it to 9/11 it's a similar event, but imagine 45,000 Americans dying. What's happening at our southern border is a crime. The fentanyl coming across. We have very weak leadership in Washington, D.C. today. And I don't even call it leadership. We have no leadership in Washington, D.C. today. When you think about what happened in Israel with the gross and the capturing of grandmothers and grandfathers and families and the execution style things that happened, we clearly need to let Israel, and when I say let, we need to encourage Israel to take down Hamas, Hezbollah, and that whole region if necessary. At some point, we will either fight that war today, as we started to 20 years ago, or we will be fighting it again in 20 years. And we stand with Israel, and we hope them Godspeed on doing their work. And thank you for having me here today. It's been a real honor to serve as your Ag Commissioner, and I look forward to seeing you in the near future. So pass it on.
Does the thought of losing your hard-earned retirement savings to DC's reckless spending scare the heck out of you? Smart Americans are taking action by texting the word NOW to 989898 for a free info kit on gold from Birch Gold Group. For 20 years, Birch Gold has helped concerned Americans protect their future by moving part of an existing IRA or 401k into a physical gold IRA. Text NOW to 989898 now for a free info kit.
Let me first thank the chairman and everyone here. Yep. Look, what a shock. You're for Trump. I'm going to fall over dead. Now look, every one of those boos, every one of those catcalls, every one of those yells will not keep it. Yes, sure. Will not solve one problem we face in this country. Will not solve, and will not make this country better. Your anger against the truth is reprehensible. When you think about the problems that our country and this world is facing, when you think about that, this type of pettiness is beneath the process of electing a president. Yeah. And as people watch today, If your arguments are so strong, if your arguments are so great, and mine are so bad, then just keep quiet. Let me make my awful arguments, and then you can just reject them out of hand. But the problem is you fear the truth. The problem is you want to shout down any voice that says anything different than what you want to hear. And you can continue to do it, and believe me, it doesn't bother me one bit. I'll tell you what does bother me. As we stand today and watch the atrocities that are going on in Israel, that's what we should spend our time talking about. And that's the place where I suggest some of our anger should be directed. When we should make sure that every candidate running for president makes it very clear to every American and every citizen of the world, the United States will stand undivided with the state of Israel, and we will defeat terrorists all around the world. And I am the only candidate in this race, the only one who's had the opportunity to prosecute those terrorists, to do the job that needed to be done after September 11th, to take terrorists who are going to attack American citizens on our soil and put them in jail. One of them was going to attack airliners coming out of Newark Airport and try to shoot them out of the sky. And we caught them before they could, and he spent the rest of his life and died in prison, as he should have. Another group of 6 of them were going to spend their time attacking our military base in New Jersey at Fort Dix and killing every American man and fighting woman they could find. We caught them, and they are spending the rest of their life in jail the way they should. We need a president who knows how to do that. When you look at what's happening in Europe, the last time the United States turned its back on a shooting war in Europe, we wound up there a few years later, and we had to sacrifice the lives of 500,000 American soldiers to defeat Hitler and fascism in Europe. We need to stand today with Ukraine to defeat the Russians so that we don't have to ever send American men and fighting women back to Europe to defend freedom and democracy. That's what this country has always stood for, and that's what we need to stand for today. We need to stand with Ukraine and defeat the Russians. And when we look to the south, to our southern border, and we know that because of how porous it is, the terrorists at this very moment could be crossing that border with the intention to do harm to the American people. It has been too long and too many empty promises from too many politicians to defend the southern border and to strengthen it. We need to once and for all secure our border and do it the right way, not with empty promises that don't wind up being fulfilled. Our country was always its greatest, not when we filled the moat and pulled up the drawbridge and said we didn't care about the rest of the world. Our country was always the greatest, not when we did small things that divided each other, but that we did big things that we could all do together. And whether you go back to the forming of this country, when it would have been easy to stay with the king in Great Britain, but a collective group of men and women decided, no, America could only be free, truly free, if we had our own country. They decided to go big, and that's why we're here, and you have the freedom to boo me today. Make sure you send a thank you note to George Washington for that. Second, in 1861, when Abraham Lincoln could have let this part of the country go and just kept it small in the North, he decided to go big. And he fought the Civil War to keep this country free and united. And we made great sacrifices to do it. But because we had a leader who was willing to do big things, after 4 years of that sacrifice, we were a bigger, stronger, freer, richer country than we were before. In 1941, when Franklin Roosevelt could have continued to have America respond to the voices of isolationism and keep America away from what was happening in Europe, he didn't. He decided that a threat like Hitler anywhere was a threat to us as well. He united the country, and we led the fight against fascism 75 years ago. We went big and we came out as the world's greatest power, freer, stronger, braver, richer than we were before, because we did big things and we did them together, and we need to do that again. In 1961, when John Kennedy said we were going to go to the moon in this decade and return men back safely, people said it couldn't be done. But America gathered together with our greatest scientists, with our greatest innovation, and we went big. And even though he had been gone for 6 years, his dream was realized, and his dream for our country was realized, and we continue to lead innovation in this country, not by going small, not by looking inward, but by looking outward. We did.
love and support. Really good news. I feel like a lot of y'all have been keeping up with her over the years, but Katie, this past week we were in Tampa together. She's 5 years cancer-free thanks to Moffitt. So in all seriousness, back to business. I have about 3 messages that I want to share with you today. And I promise I'm not going to talk as fast as my friend Vivek, who you'll hear back in a little bit later today. So I'm going to be easy on you. But one, let's start off with a message I think is important to note. Go woke, you go broke. You know what I'm saying? I love being your chief financial officer. Everybody told me that running the state's finances would be a quiet job, but they were wrong. I guess that was before this virus that invaded our country from a communist nation outside of our borders and went to war against America's freedom and liberty. And you may be thinking I'm thinking and talking about COVID, but not. I'm talking about the woke virus, my friends. We're now fighting the woke virus at every level of our financial levels of corporations. With companies like Budweiser and Target are starting to learn, if you go woke, you go broke. Now, here's their scheme. They call it ESG. But what it really means is these trillion-dollar asset managers are dictating to companies how to run their businesses based on liberal politics, not on the best outcome for the investors. I don't like any of it. BlackRock's Larry Fink was making speeches bragging about it. He was talking about access to capital is a privilege. And Larry Fink was telling capital markets, if you want our money, then you must adopt our politics. I didn't like what I saw. I investigated on how our investments were performing in the state of Florida. We discovered that we had about $2 billion sitting in BlackRock, so we pulled that money out. Florida still to this day has pulled more money out of BlackRock than any other state in the union. I was not going to allow Florida to go woke and go broke with the leadership and ideas being pushed out by the Larry Finks of the world. Here's the crazy thing about it. As we pulled that money out, the returns on our investments in Florida, I'm the state treasurer also, the returns on investments were the highest we've ever had in the history of the state. We had $1.1 billion in interest on your money. Now, it's too late to save the Larry Finks of the world from the woke virus, but I'm proud to say that Governor DeSantis, Speaker Paul Renner, President Kathleen Pasadomo worked to fight to protect us from the woke virus. I want to thank them for their leadership in the Florida legislature on passing some of the strongest anti-ESG laws in the nation. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm proud of our governor. I just look at what he's doing to hold these woke state attorneys accountable and what he's doing and what it takes to keep Florida free. So imagine if we could fix the double standard of justice at the federal level. If we could fix the double standard of justice that doesn't lock up a Hunter Biden, but does everything possible to prosecute a President Donald Trump. So here's where I'm going with this. I think we need to set up a new legal defense fund for any Florida presidential candidate to use when they are targeted by politically motivated prosecutors by the Department of Justice. When these men and women are brave enough to put their name on the ballot, we should protect them. Are you with me? We need to fund this. Our state right now is in the best fiscal health we've ever been in the history of the state. So it wouldn't hurt to take a little bit of our budget surplus, set it aside. We can use this to protect any Floridian who wants to defend themselves and make sure that these politically motivated prosecutors don't magically appear during election cycles. It's just wrong. It's wrong weaponizing government. It's wrong that they're using resources that are available to Floridians, so we should be able to help these individuals fight back. We could even call it the Defending Florida Fighters Fund. So I would love to end the weaponization of the federal government against our own citizens. Imagine if we could end the weaponization of government against parents that go speak at their own kids' school board meeting, and end the weaponization of government that is against our own president, former president of the United States, President Donald Trump. And let me ask you, does anybody truly have any faith in our federal judicial system anymore? No, me neither. We have our own tax dollars being used for a federal witch hunt against President Trump just because he's a political opponent of Joe Biden. Here in Florida, we have a large population of our state that fled communist countries. And in those countries, it's done all the time. Politicians use the federal police to punish their political enemies. This should never happen in America. This is a sign of democracy in decline. This is not a democracy of the people, by the people, and for the people. So, number two, I don't know about y'all, but I want to defund the IRS. I got a good friend of mine, Toby Overdorf's out here somewhere. Toby, there's in the front row. Toby carried the bill last year. We're going to continue to hold the IRS accountable with the help of the Florida legislature. You remember a few years ago, back in 2020, there was this defund the police movement. Well, again, I think we should flip it on its head, and it should be defunding the IRS. Joe Biden is spending $80 billion of your money to add more IRS agents to the rolls. They're going to use our own tax dollars to come out of you. They're going to crawl through your Venmo, your PayPal, your Cash App, your bank account transactions to find more money that you're spending. I don't understand why they can't take those same 87,000 agents and send them to where the real crime is being committed, the southern border. It is time to defund the IRS. I'm going to work as your chief financial officer. I'm going to work with our great governor. I'm going to work with the legislature, and we're going to push some key things through the legislative process next year. Here's what I'm thinking about. First, I'm going to start off an IRS transparency portal. This is where Floridians can submit complaints when they are being targeted by an individual IRS agent that's harassing them or exhibiting politically motivated behavior. We are going to find out who is targeting Floridians, and we're going to hold them accountable. And then when the federal government will not root out their own corruption, we're going to expose it online and let the transparency do its job and root this evil out of the system. When you hire 87,000 IRS agents, you can't tell me that 1% of them don't have a political agenda. I'm sorry. People are people, and they will carry their politics into their jobs. And sometimes, as we have seen by the evidence of what they did to the Tea Party groups, they will be targeted by our own government. We have got to create transparency. Second, they're targeting, I don't know if you've been keeping up with this, but if you use PayPal or Cash App or any of these Cash App related apps, I just got a push notification of mine wanting to know if I've been notified about the IRS about tracking my transactions. Friends, they're going after every transaction over $600. You're going to get a 1099. They're going to start to go after every single transaction that pierces that $600 threshold, even if you're transferring it to another bank account. So we're going to pass a law in Florida that works against big tech to make sure you can opt out of the monitoring that they're trying to do and partnering with IRS. And third and last, you know what I want to do? It's kind of crazy we don't have this right now. I want to have an independent tax advocate for the citizens of the state of Florida. So in the case of insurance, we have a insurance advocate that works for you, that is against the insurance companies if they need to be, against government if it needs to be, an independent advocate. That's what I want to do with the IRS. I want an independent advocate that when you have a problem, when you have a question, when you have a concern, you can pick up the phone, you can call without having to hire an accountant or hiring an attorney when your own government is creating a threatening situation for you. So again, we need somebody to be standing there with you independently to hold the state accountable, hold the feds accountable, to make sure that you keep your dollars in your pocket. I'm a big believer. You spend your money better than Tallahassee does. You spend your money better than Washington does. We can't sit on our hands anymore. Time has come back to fight against the IRS. I'm going to be your chief defender, and I'm going to be their worst nightmare. So this is my message to Joe Biden. You are not protecting the border on illegal immigration, illegal drugs, or criminals flooding into our country. You are not making us safer. You're making us weaker abroad, and you're not stepping up to protect Israel. And in Florida, we will not sit idle, sitting aside. We're going to continue to fight to keep Florida free. Now, I love being your CFO, and it's now I'm being kind of funny. It's your chief freedom officer, okay? So look, take out your phones. I know you got your phones. Mine's on silent because I'm not going to let y'all call me this time. But take out your phones. And if you go to Keep Florida Free, PC.com, you can get your own bumper sticker set that says Keep Florida Free. Go on the website. While you got your phone out, punch my phone number in there. Don't call it because I got it on silent. It's not going to ring through. 850-583-1817. I'm here to work for you. I'm here to be your partner. I'm here to be your advocate. I'm here to be your friend, and I like to be held accountable. If you need me, call me. Now, in closing, I want to wrap up with this. We have to take back the White House in 2024. I've never been so hopeful for Florida's future. In fact, we're in the best fiscal health that we've ever been in the history of the state of Florida. A lot of people don't realize that. Best ever. I'm so proud of our first responders. They came after Hurricane Idalia and Hurricane Ian. They're excellent. They're sacrificing time away from their families, their friends, to make sure our safety is there. I get to be the state fire marshal, so I get to work with these guys every day. So do me a favor, like in my case, there's a little fire station down the street from my house. Ever since the boys have been old enough to be able to put two and two together, what I was trying to accomplish, we would bake some cookies, put them on a paper plate, wrap it in saran wrap. We'd take it to the fire station, and we would thank those men and women for working on Thanksgiving while we get to stay home with our families. So this holiday, on Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, go out of your way. Stop by the police station, the sheriff's department, the hospital, the emergency room. Please go in there and drop by and say thank you. It'll go a long ways. It'll help the morale, what they do. Good people. Florida's thriving. I've never been more concerned about the direction our country is going into. That's why we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect ourselves from federal overreach. People forget that we're a donor state to the federal government. We give more money than we take back in. So I think it's right that we pass laws to protect us from federal overreach, to protect ourselves from a federal government that's out of control, where the inmates are running the institution. After all, again, I remind you, we're a donor state. Florida's a symbol of freedom. And for those that still believe in the founding principles of America, this is why we need to stand up. We need to protect ourselves to ensure that Joe Biden does not get elected in 2024. You know, President Trump used to say that we were going to win so much that we're going to get tired of winning. Remember that? My fear is we're going to get tired of fighting. But you know what? Are you tired of fighting? Hell no. None of us are tired of fighting. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be your chief financial officer. Let's get back to work. Let's take the White House back, and let's win in November. God bless you.
I'm a soul man.
Does the thought of losing your hard-earned retirement savings to DC's reckless spending scare the heck out of you? Smart Americans are taking action by texting the word NOW to 989898 for a free info kit on gold from Birch Gold Group. For 20 years, Birch Gold has helped concerned Americans protect their future by moving part of an existing IRA or 401k into a physical gold IRA. Text NOW to 989898 now for a free info kit.
Government is to protect individual freedom. This is where it starts. This summit is perfectly named. It is a room full of folks that are committed to fiercely fighting for freedom. And we know that there are those that get high on power and forget that that is government's #1 priority and responsibility. And we see when we make sure and we guarantee freedom, we see that it ensures that our states are successful, that our families and our people are successful, and it ensures a quality of life. No one can match that, not any state across the nation. Indeed, there is no better name for this event. It is a summit of those that love this state, our country, and we come together to extol the virtues of freedom. Now, the Florida Democratic Party said, and she called this, did you see that? The extreme MAGA competition. You bet it is. We own that. Absolutely. It's better and in stark contrast to being the Democratic race to the bottom. Record inflation, record energy and economic dependence on our enemies, record number of folks flooding, invading our nation that are unvetted. It is unbelievable what has happened in just under 3 years. So you mean leaders come together in one room to give out ideas and share ideas and promote freedom? Yes, that is an extreme MAGA competition. We're coming together to make sure that we are ensuring we're the country that our forefathers envisioned and that our children deserve. Sign us up. Yes, it is. During our first term, under the leadership of Governor DeSantis and with his firm resolve, Florida showed that even in the face of fear and challenges during COVID, when the liberal mob decried any other approach than locking us up in our houses, shutting down our businesses, closing down our church services, we showed that we could stand out by respecting individual liberty and freedom. And we did so while focusing on the health and safety of Floridians. We focused that freedom is our central responsibility, and Florida is thriving. Florida's calculation, the Florida way, has catapulted our state into success. In fact, we are now the nation with the most people trying to move here. We are setting records in business formations. We are breaking tourism records. We are at a decades-low crime rate. Indeed, we are on a path of prosperity and success. And we have shown the world that if you focus and implement conservative ideas and conservative policy, it works. We did so in such a condensed time frame, and look at Florida's success. It's exponential. We are thriving, but look at the backlash. You know, it reminds me of an attack of the zombies. Anytime you promote life, vitality, stability, there's an attack. The intensity and the vitriol, it's like a zombie attack. They want you to be like them, think like them, believe like them. And we do not accept that here. We know that our conservative values and principles will not do it. That alone will not cut it. You have to be focused, and it has to be followed up with deliberate and efficient implementation of those ideas. Focus and the ability to endure and persevere ahead in the face of radical backlash. Perseverance in the storm of overwhelming false narratives pushed by some in the media and the well-funded and liberal-staffed nonprofits. Squaring off against a democratic machine for ideas that you know are worth fighting for. That is the key to success. Success is not an accident, and we have shown that and proven that in Florida. But it is based on a team of courageous conservatives. And I don't just mean those of us that you have chosen to help lead the cause. I mean you. I mean you in this audience of courageous conservatives. Our team, our great Republican team, has led with a brand of courageous conservatism. You hear it every day. It has become the envy of the nation. There have been great teams throughout history, even teams that evolved into what we would call dynasties. We lost one of the greats last week, Bobby Knight. They called him the General too, and I like that. He used his skills to develop teams into dynasties, but along the way, he stood up, he spoke out, he supported conservative causes and conservative leaders unabashedly. We can take this great team, this great Florida Republican team, and turn it into a dynasty. How do we do that? We do not back down from continuously seeking out how we improve. Every day, we're evaluating how we improve. And look what we've been able to do. When I first spoke to you 6 years ago, we were down in terms of registrations, hundreds of thousands, Republicans to Democrats. Now we lead by 600,000 registered Republicans. And by committing to improvement, we're going to break our personal best. We'll break our own record. We also have to put in the work, not being complacent, always drilling down, getting the job done, not resting on our laurels. I know that all of you, just not through our term, for decades have shown up, worked hard, engaged with voters, drove turnout. We are so grateful to you. In fact, it was that work and that dedication and that belief in us that resulted in a historic Republican win last year. Thank you so much. Our team has not been complacent, and I want to know that your dedication and passion has inspired me as your AG. And as I have watched this president and radicals in just under 3 years break down the structures that protect so many things that we value, I have I've been buttressed by your passion and support. And whether it was immigration or education, when they tried to rip away parental rights, whether it was fighting for our unborn, whether it was pushing back against the criminal justice nonsense that just weaken and destabilizing our communities, I have been effective and we have won, and I have waged war against President Biden and his administration because of you and your support. So what else does it take to turn a great team into a dynasty? It takes leaders who are not afraid of the moment. And there has never been a more important moment in our country's history. In just 3 short years, we have seen this machine kneecap our country. And they have gone after the 3 basic needs of mankind: health, physiology. Fentanyl is rushing into our country. China and the cartels are assuring that. When Nancy Reagan first stood up in the 80s and said, "Just say no," she was worried about the national overdose death. You know how many we were losing? 3,200 a year. Under President Biden, we lost 110,000 in 1 year. They are killing Americans. Last week, I stood with Sheriff Grady Judd, and we announced a huge, record-breaking fentanyl bust right here in Florida. It was from the cartels, and it wound up here. It was enough to kill every child in our state. That is what we are up against. That is the evil we are up against. They have also attacked our security. When I first brought suit against Biden for breaking down the structures of immigration security, I was one of the first AGs to do that. Florida was the first state. We were the first state to sue on catch and release, and we were the first state to fight back when Title 42 expired, and we won. But Biden and his administration, they're like shapeshifters. Every time we win a battle in court, they shift. They change the name of a policy. They change how they're applying it. They create another program totally in violation of law. And what has that done? As I have unveiled through litigation, evidence after piece of evidence after piece of evidence over these years, every time Biden said, Mayorkas said, everyone said in that administration, our border is secure. Our border is secure. They repeated that over and over. And so a week ago, when we uncovered an internal memo that said the DHS was now warning that foreign fighters were crossing into our country amidst the surges that President Biden caused. And on Tuesday, when Director Wray said, as an aside, in congressional testimony, the threat of attack against American citizens on American soil is at a whole nother level. Did President Biden or Secretary Mayorkas or Director Wray stand at a podium and deliver that message to Americans so they could be on guard? No, because how could they, after year, when confronted saying our border is secure? So this week, I stood with Florida law enforcement leaders from across this state, and we warned Floridians, as a leader should do, that you should be on guard because the threat, as in Director Ray's words, is at a whole nother level. And that is on President Biden. He owns that. And we're gonna make sure he eats that next year. They have also attacked our sense of community, our belonging, our love for one another. I sat, as the wife of a law enforcement officer, I sat speechless as I watched riots happen under this administration, as cops were attacked, as their cars were burned. I couldn't believe it. It took so long for President Biden even to call it a riot. And when BLM came out and attacked our cops, does it surprise you it's BLM that's now pro-Hamas? And last week, when there was a BDS anti-Israel conference on one of our university campuses, would it surprise you that those same people, the socialists, were now sponsoring that? They have attacked and disrupted and made chaos amongst our communities in an effort to destabilize them. The health, security, communities have been deliberately attacked by the machine. And so in this moment of time, you have to have courageous conservatives to put their head down and walk into that wind and stay focused and implement our agenda to get this country and our state back on track. At times, and I know you feel it, and I am a mother of a young child, still in school, I see it every day, the fear of parents. I know you feel it. At times, it feels like these chaotic and ill-intentioned forces are gaining traction. I know you feel it. But it is in this moment that it will take our band of courageous conservative fighters to hold the line. And then we push forward, implementing our ideas that we know will work. And we don't back down and we get it down, because our Florida Republican team, you, and all of the leaders that are come on this stage today, we are America's dream team. We are America's dream team. We've shown it. We've delivered results, and we've delivered historic electoral wins. And I don't care if your favorite player is Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. What's important is we are fighting for the common cause together. It was their team that succeeded. They used their extraordinary talents, their hard work, their perseverance, and they succeeded. And it will take that same focus and collaborative effort to push our country back on track. There has never been a moment like this. It is all on the line, and it will take a great team, a team like Florida's team, to take that great team and make it a dynasty. Thank you for giving me this chance to lead. God bless my conservative, courageous Floridians.
Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. I've been taking care of business.
We are pleased.
Help and hope go hand in hand. Give, Send, Go, the leader in online fundraising.
Together, we have made Florida the freest state in these United States. And because of America's governor, Governor Ron DeSantis, and our administration, we have transformed the state of Florida. While the media spins their lies and tries to encourage Floridians to reject Governor DeSantis' bold agenda and common sense policies, People are flocking right here to Florida for the opportunity to live in a state where freedom is valued. Florida has often found itself in the headlines, but now more than ever, we're so important politically because over the years, I have seen our beloved state become solid red, thanks to you. We've transformed Florida from a state in which Democrats used to outnumber Republican voters by more than 800,000 to now one that dominates statewide, has a supermajority in the House and Senate, and we now have more than 625,000 registered Republican voters over the Democrats. In fact, in a state where unemployment is at an all-time low, I think the only people that are collecting unemployment are Democrat politicians and party hacks. Prior to serving as Florida's lieutenant governor, I know many of you know, I had the privilege of serving in the Florida House of Representatives for 8 years. And we're blessed to have a great legislature, both in the House and the Senate, and I know many of them are here today, so thank you for your service. And I was looking to term out in 2018, and actually looking forward to taking a break from politics, believe it or not, and spending time with my family. However, that didn't exactly play out as I had planned. In 2018, I get a call from then Congressman Ron DeSantis asking me to join the ticket in Florida's gubernatorial race and serve as his lieutenant governor. After much thought, prayer, discussion with my family, and a little cajoling from my middle child, who is my political child, I decided to join the ticket and serve alongside Governor Ron DeSantis as Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Florida. And it is with the utmost confidence that I can honestly say that that's one of the greatest decisions of my life. And despite what you'll read or see in the news, Florida is no longer a swing state. We're no longer a battleground state. We're no longer a toss-up state. Florida is bright Republican red. And for the last 5 years, together, Governor Ron DeSantis and I have carried out the most conservative agenda in the United States of America. In fact, our administration has enhanced Florida's education system. We've secured universal school choice. We've defended parents' rights in education. We have put an end to critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of those woke terms that they love to push on our people. We have stood up for our military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, and our first responders. We've prioritized economic freedom to help our economy grow and thrive, and in turn, help Florida's families that are actually having to navigate under Bidenflation and the crippling effects of his ridiculous policies that have actually hurt Floridians. We've protected our children. We've protected girls' sports. We've made sure that our children are being free from indoctrination, child mutilation, and gender-destroying care. And yes, we've taken real action and delivered real results to support Israel, our friend, our strongest ally in the Middle East. Last year's election results is proof of our administration's success. We made history by winning with a margin of nearly 20%, the largest margin for a Republican in our state's history, because people are tired of politicians that only talk but don't deliver results. We fight every day for Floridians, and we focus on making history and not necessarily headlines. And that's why Floridians made their voices clear, and they sent a resounding message to states across the nation. The Florida model works. Policies matter. Principles matter. Pollsters, pundits, and political talking heads do not matter. What matters is the people. Those of you that are here, you matter to us. And that's particularly true of education. We shun the high-paid union bosses and the bureaucrats. We support our teachers, our students, and their families. We're #1 in the nation for education, #1 for educational freedom, #1 for parental rights involvement, #1 for school choice, and #1 in the nation for higher education 7 years in a row. And that happened because the governor and I worked hard to ensure that our children can receive an in-person education. We took on the union and the establishment. We removed woke ideologies and pornography from the classrooms. Because when it comes to education, we want our kids to be educated, not indoctrinated. We want our kids to learn their ABCs, not their LGBTs. Children need to learn about math, science, civics, history. They do not need to spend their days randomly picking their pronouns or their genders for whatever the whim of the day is. We simply will not allow our healthy, resilient, strong students to fall prey to life-altering prescriptions or procedures. We've also protected parents' rights and put the power back in the hands of those that know their children best. Governor DeSantis also took on the biomedical establishment and refused to force vaccines, boosters, mask mandates, lockdowns. Today, we're seeing across the country, the radical left is again turning to hysteria and trying to impose mask mandates on our children. Mark my words, that will not happen in Florida, not ever. We've prohibited school districts from forcing our children to receive the COVID-19 vaccines. We've prohibited them from forcing our children to wear masks, and we've prohibited them from sending healthy children into quarantine. We won't allow emergencies to be weaponized. We will not give in to the hysteria, and we will not bow down at the altar of Fauci. If we allow government to use emergencies to infringe on your liberties, rest assured that they will create emergencies to trample all over your freedoms. In fact, it was Benjamin Franklin who once said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Our founding fathers were wise, and they were not concerned with government doing too little. They were concerned with government doing too much. And I'm also proud that we're an administration that looks to protect girls' sports. The left loves to say that they believe in science, yet they have single-handedly attempted to redefine basic human anatomy, all the while destroying the sanctity of women's sports. And to have any discussion about the dangers of their efforts will have you labeled as a hateful bigot. And I will tell you, as a mother of a 24-year-old daughter who played sports her entire life, I could never have been more proud to see her preparing for an upcoming basketball game, a track meet, a cross-country race. And because of the love of sports, because of the love for her teammates, her female teammates, I will tell you that her and her teammates reached the state championship in the 4x100 relay. And those are the types of opportunities we're trying to preserve. Those are the types of girls we're trying to protect in every sport and in every corner of our state. By allowing men to compete in women's sports, we're making a mockery of women. We're compromising the fairness and integrity of women's sports, and we're perpetuating a lie that men can become women. In Florida, girls play against girls and boys play against boys. Period. End of story. And that's why Governor DeSantis enacted the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, and that's why we look to continue to fight for what women have fought for decades, for equal opportunities in sports, and we're not going to let the left rob them of their opportunity to fairly compete and win. I have often said that in Florida, we don't idolize celebrities or sports stars. We won't recognize their latest cause du jour. We recognize, admire, and support our men and women in uniform. We've made it clear that Florida is a law and order state, and we back the blue. And while other states and cities are spiraling out of control, pushing soft on crime policies, allowing criminals to run loose, applauding rogue prosecutors who fail to uphold the rule of law, here in Florida, we've enacted policies that are tough on crime, put criminals where they belong, and support our law enforcement officers each and every day. Many people today, perhaps you're here, have been forced to flee their dangerous cities, their dangerous states that are spiraling out of control. In search of safety and security, here in Florida, we've been that refuge. And over the last several years, our administration has worked to advance Florida's blueprint, to make sure that people are safe in their neighborhoods, that families don't have to worry about their children. We've stopped local governments from defunding the police. We've increased penalties for those that are rioting, looting, and disturbing the peace. We've enhanced penalties for those that are selling and distributing opioids, and we've increased the mandatory minimum sentencing for trafficking in fentanyl. We know that fentanyl is killing more of our young adults than ever, and that's at the hands of Biden's reckless policies at the border and the red carpet that he rolls out to the Chinese Communist Party. We've also established a recruitment program to recruit talented law enforcement officers from other parts of the country. We've given out $1,000 bonuses to our law enforcement officers 2 years in a row. And I'm proud to know that earlier this year, we had issued more than 2,200 law enforcement recruitment bonuses for those that are coming from near and far, mainly California, New York, Illinois, and Pennsylvania. And what do those states have in common? You guessed it. They're run by losers, lunatics, and leftists. We also cannot forget our brave men and women of our military. Our state is proud to be the most military and veteran-friendly state in the nation. In Florida, we believe that heroes don't wear jerseys. They wear the uniform with the U.S. flag on their sleeve, and they never hesitate to answer the call. In fact, they're not obsessed with the latest version of the pride flag. They are focused on the only flag that matters, the flag of the United States of America. So we will always honor and appreciate those who are prepared to lay down their lives, especially those that have shown the full measure of devotion. You know, in John 15:13, it reminds us that greater love has no one than this, and those that will lay down their lives for their friends. And our military, I'm so proud that our state supports them every step of the way. We're going to make sure to continue to honor, respect, and serve those who serve. And we've done so. We've done so by making sure that we provide them with the tools that they need when they return to civilian life. This year alone, Governor DeSantis signed 8 pieces of legislation to support our military and their families. We support veteran education and training opportunities. We've expanded veteran benefits, and we've strengthened long-term care for our veterans and their families. And just last month, I unveiled an initiative called LG on Mission. I'm looking to meet with service members and veterans across our great state, recognize them for their service, and work on finding new and creative ways to support them and serve them. From our World War II veterans to our newly enlisted state guardsmen in Florida, we thank you for your service. We also know that under Governor DeSantis' leadership, Florida is the fastest growing state in the nation. We're #1 in new business formation, #1 in tourism, #1 in economic freedom, #1 in net migration. Unsurprisingly, while other states are hurting, Florida is thriving. And this session, we enacted the largest tax relief package in the history of our state, $2.7 billion worth of tax relief. We understand that Floridians are struggling, which is why we want to continue to find ways to reduce the burden caused by the Biden administration. Pain at the pump and at the checkout line is caused by Biden's disdain for hardworking and God-fearing Americans. But our administration is committed to relieving some of that financial burden, relieving some of that stress, and we're going to continue to do so by providing tax relief and toll relief. The Bible also reminds us that those that blessed Israel will be blessed, and those that curse Israel will be cursed. And it goes without saying that there is no greater friend to Israel than Governor Ron DeSantis. He has not just said that he unequivocally supports Israel. He's taken significant action and meaningful reforms to make sure that we're delivering, not only for the people of Israel, but for our Jewish communities right here in the state of Florida. We have continued to find a way to lead in combating anti-Semitism. We've fought the BDS movement. We've provided millions of dollars in security at Jewish day schools. We've funded Holocaust memorials, and we have proudly strengthened the economic and cultural ties of the state of Israel. And on October 7th, immediately following Hamas's despicable terrorist attacks on Israel, Governor DeSantis increased security around our Jewish communities at synagogues and schools, made sure that he announced legislation to increase penalties on the largest global sponsor of terrorism, Iran, and to make sure he brought back nearly 700 Americans that were left abandoned there by Biden, and made sure to send 2 cargo flights filled with supplies to Israel. And this week, we will have a special session to address Governor DeSantis' legislative proposals on Iran, because we've pledged to continue to use every resource at our disposal to support our Jewish communities in our state, and we look forward to other states following our lead. Friends, what I'll leave you with is I am so proud to serve as your Lieutenant Governor. Governor Ron DeSantis and I will continue to stand for what's right, even if it isn't popular, and even if it doesn't align with the headlines of the day, the corporate elites, or the woke crazies of the radical left. In Florida, we've made history, and will continue to ensure that Florida remains an oasis of sanity. We will always fight for you. We will never back down. And in a state that recognizes the importance of faith, family, and freedom. Thank you for standing alongside us and supporting us. May God bless you. May God bless the great state of Florida. Amen.
Losing weight has you frustrated. A group of doctors created a remarkable weight loss supplement called Lean, and it's very encouraging. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to help maintain healthy glucose levels, help burn fat by converting excess fat into energy, and reduce appetite so you eat less. If you've tried everything to lose weight, non-prescription Lean could be the answer you've been searching for.
Visit TakeLean.com and get 15% off with promo code GET15 at TakeLean.com.
Look, I'm excited to stand here and I'm proud to share that Florida is the freest state in the nation. And Florida is getting freer by the day because of the efforts of everyone in this room. And for the first time, the number one reason why I'm hearing people are moving to Florida is not the weather and beaches, but it's because of the freedom. Florida is a winning model because instead of shying away from conservative principles and policies, our elected officials are leaning into them and they are paying off. We're seeing that in voter registration, election results, and in our everyday lives. But it can all be ripped apart and taken away in just one election. And as conservatives, we must continue the fight. Because it's not, but I will say it's not easy for us to do that because it's not in our conservative blood to impose our views on others. Conservatives, what are we focused on? Earning a paycheck, putting a roof over our head, putting food on the plate, running our business, having our guns, raising our family, and practicing our religion. But while we've done that, the left has gone and taken over Wall Street. They've taken control in Washington. They've taken control over our K through 12 and our higher education. And they've controlled the media. And unfortunately, those on the other side do not believe like us. They do want to take their views and impose it on you. Not just you, not just against candidates running for president, not just against our elected officials, not just against our pocketbook or our businesses, but now they're targeting our children. And it's not good enough for them because, again, they want power. But those days are over. In the past, the idea of not allowing or allowing an abortion was a controversial topic. Now Democrats are openly embracing abortion up until the moment of birth. We used to count illegal immigrants, border crossings, by the thousands. Now it's by the millions. And there was universal national pride and support of our military and law enforcement. Now Democrats are marching in our streets demanding that we defund law enforcement. But most concerning again are the left are going after the most vulnerable and impressionable amongst us, our children. They're teaching children to hate America. They're forcing girls to share locker rooms with boys. And they're taking away the opportunity in sports from girls. In my hometown, we had a silver medalist swimmer that got second in the Olympics. She comes home, she swims in the NCAA championships. She loses to a man. This battle is not just left versus right, not just liberal versus conservative, or even right versus wrong. This war is a showdown of insanity versus sanity. But there's some good news. We have common sense on our side. And I believe history will show that we are just in this battle. But that's why it's important for all of us in this room to stand up and continue the fight. And that's what the Republican Party of Florida is going to do. We are going to stand for law and order, not defunding the police. We are going to support the Second Amendment, not taking away our ability to protect ourselves, our family, and our friends. We're going to stand with life and not the murder of the innocent unborn. We believe countries have borders and a process-focused immigration system, not fast lanes for illegal aliens. And we stand with our friends and our greatest Middle East ally, Israel, rather than the animals who seek to rape and murder innocent Israelis. And we do not shame America because we appreciate and love the greatest country on earth. This fight will not be easy, but it will be just. And we will not stop until we have a conservative in every city commission, county commission, school board race in the entire state. So let's protect our state. Let's bring back sanity and save our country, because frankly, we have no other choice. So next up, I'm going to bring up an Israeli American who's been spending her time. She was actually a semifinalist on American Idol, but she's been taking her talents all around the country and raising money for the IDF soldiers that are impacted right now. Her name is Hadas Levy, and she's going to be coming out to sing God Bless America. Enjoy.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, sweet home. Thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. Thank you.
While so many companies are promoting what is wrong, we choose to celebrate what is right. Life. Every miracle from God. Boy and girl. Black, tan, and white. Planned and unplanned. Gifted and special. Every one of them is celebrated here. Every life. Where changing diapers changes lives.
Introducing the founder of 1789 Capital and Public Square board member, Omid Malik, and Florida's former Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
Betty, how are you? Oh, it's so good to see many faces I know out there. So I have the honor of interviewing my dear friend today, Omid Malik. And Omid,
that's why I asked you to do that, because they all know you. Nobody knows me, so I get to clap. I get to enjoy
Omid
that.
is awesome, and he is sponsoring this entire event today with Public Square, which we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell a little fact about Omid. Has anybody seen Billions? The show Billions? Watch season 3, the first premiere episode, and Omid plays himself on Billions. Pretty cool. And there's a reason for that. Omid's an attorney, he was a banker, he's a brilliant investor, and he's an entrepreneur. And we met through America First Policy Institute, which was formed by Brooke Rollins, Linda McMahon, Larry Kudlow, John Radcliffe, a bunch of Chad Wolf, Matt Whitaker, a bunch of our great friends, because we knew that for the next 4 years, we had to carry on the Trump policies and be ready with executive orders for the next Republican president to come back into office. And so you want to tell them a little bit about the Florida chapter?
Yeah, 100%. I'm heading that up with you. So we're trying to expand those great policies we had at the federal level at every state. And it probably doesn't surprise everybody here. What's the most important state to start with? Florida.
Yay! So, Omid, I mean, you've accomplished so much in your life. And tell us about Public Square. What is that?
So how many people here like to give their money to Jeff Bezos? Exactly. I'm pretty sick of that too, because what ends up happening is not only are you actually indirectly helping the Chinese Communist Party because they make almost all their stuff over there, you're also helping a guy named Jeff Bezos, and he owns a little outfit you may have heard of, the Washington Post. They don't really like our side of the aisle that much, so effectively you're giving money to press to say bad things about people that we support. I just think this is crazy, and by the way, it's happening in every aspect of our economy. So a few of us decided to do something about it. 3 months ago, I took Public Square, you'll hear from their founder and CEO later, public on the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you. And the reason we did that is we can't let these woke corporations take our money and then fund our opposition. We need our own companies. And the capital markets belong to all of you, not them. So now we have our own public companies that we can go out there and support and have our values. We got to get started somewhere.
And where is Public Square based?
Well, it was, believe it or not, based in California of all places, but we changed that. It is now in the free state of Florida.
And you're getting a standing ovation for that. So, Omid, talk to us about some of the, Omid's a new father, and he's about to have a second, maybe daughter. He has one daughter.
Thank you.
And his awesome wife is pregnant with their second baby. So talk to us about the diapers, what you found out.
Yeah, so basically one of the nice things about Public Square is for those of you that have used it or will use it, you'll see you can just type in what you want to look for, just like Amazon. And what we were seeing is that a product that wasn't on our app, that wasn't patriotic or free speech oriented, was diapers, believe it or not. I didn't know this, but the top diaper brand in this country, they all support Planned Parenthood. Can you believe that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Michael will hear from it's like basically saying, hey, I have a shoe company, but I like to amputate your foot. Yeah. It makes no sense, but that's what they're doing. So they take your money and then they support something that you're completely against. So we said, forget that. We now have under Public Square, the first unabashedly pro-life diaper brand. It's called Every Life.
Amazing. Omid, that's amazing what you're doing. And so I've heard Omid say he's defeating woke capital, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I believe that what we are under attack from, it's not just the Biden administration, in some cases the intelligence agencies. Sometimes it feels overwhelming and you think about what can we do? Everybody here is a patriot and they're trying to do their part. I was thinking, well, there's another area that they're beating us. They're taking all of these corporations, making them woke, and weaponizing them against us. The obvious stuff is what we saw in the election where Facebook and Twitter and all these places were censoring our free speech. And it is a constitutional violation when the government's telling them to do it. That's what people need to realize. It's not a private actor when the Biden administration is telling them to shut us down. Right. So that's violating all of our constitutional protections. So I thought, I'm going to go out there and help companies that are going to stand up against that. Because that's the other area we have to fight now is in commerce. And so with all of my initiatives, it's making sure that like companies like Public Square or Rumble, which are both based here in Florida, are going to be able to power this new patriotic economy. So it's not good enough to just be a capitalist anymore. You need to be a patriotic capitalist. You have to put America first in all your economic decisions. Otherwise, the Chinese are going to win.
And you're a financier for patriotic causes, and that's what our country needs. And, we were talking about this earlier. That's what the left is so good at. We saw Bud Light, we saw Target, all the stupid things that they were doing. And you have the 1789 fund now. Talk to us about that.
So what people have done in the past since ESG came out or one of these companies offends our values, Target putting down like transgender outfits for kids, or what Anheuser-Busch did with Bud Light, destroying a company by putting a transgender person on the ad. Kid Rock would go and shoot the cans and, hey, we all laugh at that. I mean, he should do that. But that's not positive long term. It's only so long that a boycott can work if you don't want to give money to Ben & Jerry's. How do you find solutions to actually do something positive? And so, for example, now we had a 3,000% increase on Public Square for beer after what happened with Bud Light, because people are now finding each other. The way they won is they used to keep us apart. You couldn't find the other companies you wanted to, patronize and what have you. So this is the first product that we're putting out there with Public Square. Right now, it has over 75,000 businesses on it, which means it's the largest repository of American-owned small families businesses in the country already. Okay. And by the way, those are the companies that got destroyed during COVID because they shut all these businesses down and they moved all of that wealth over to Amazon and the big companies. So that's another reason that we got to fight back against that. So we're not going to stop there. I've started a fund called 1789 Capital, named after the Bill of Rights, the year that it went into effect, which is the most important document we have as Americans. That's all about our liberty. So we're only going to invest in companies that respect the Bill of Rights. And that's what 1789 does. Our first investment was in Tucker Carlson's new company.
Did you hear that? Talk to us about Tucker,
So Tucker, I've known for over a decade. Beside being a friend, I'm an investor in the Daily Caller, which he started, which hopefully some of you guys have read. But more importantly, after what happened to him at Fox, it was very clear to me that we're dealing with censorship on a very, very high level. He's such an important voice for the people, and we needed to make sure that we were going to help him in this new endeavor. The future of the way we consume media is not just going to be on cable news. You guys all know that. I mean, even Musk says what you read in today's paper is yesterday's news. We're all looking on our phones now. So I was thinking, what's the future of how we're going to digest content? And it's on Twitter and platforms like that. So if you guys have seen his show so far that he's putting out, if you've seen some of those videos, they're incredible. He's totally unleashed now. The interview with Trump got 260 million views, okay? And on Fox, at most, he was getting 5 million. So this is where we're going. We have to be able to be unshackled, not with the way that we purchase products, but also the content that we view. And so that's what we're doing with Tucker. We're going to fuel him to make him the #1 media platform in the country with your help.
My friend is a patriot. And so you even have a rocket launching company based in Dallas, right? Like 1789.
Yeah, one of the reasons we had to start the fund is, for those of you guys that know about, venture capital funds in Silicon Valley, you may be surprised that they're not the most patriotic people. There's a big one called Sequoia that you may have heard of. And guess what they do? They go over to China and they invest in China. They go and get their money from China. So it's like during this Cold War, someone going out and investing in the Soviet Union, but being based here. That's how crazy it's gotten. So I didn't understand that. And then when you ask some of these big firms, hey, will you help the defense industry? No, we never work for the government of America, but then they'll go work with the Chinese. I mean, it's just mind-blowing what's happening in the private sector. So effectively, what we're trying to do is invest in things that are not only going to be free speech oriented, you can see that with Public Square or Rumble or what we're doing with Tucker, but also we have to invest things that are going to help American prosperity and strength and make sure that we bring jobs back here. We've outsourced all of our manufacturing abroad. We got to bring those jobs back to America so you can have a middle class again. The foundation of democracy is a middle class. And so one of the investments you were referencing is to help American strength. We are investing in a company out of Dallas, Texas, that has figured out a way to do rocket fuel much cheaper than the big guys. And so that's going to help our missile industry and protect us in this ever-changing geopolitical season that we're in.
And all of your companies are employing Americans.
We will accept no money in our fund from anybody who's not an American. That's #1. And we've committed to doing that. We'll only invest in American companies.
Omid, thank you for working to save our country. I really don't know how we'd do it without patriots like you.
Well, I mean, the other thing I'd just say is everybody in this room should just understand how much power you actually have. They want us to feel like we don't have that, but we do. And trust me, I've studied it. If you think about us, just look at Red America alone, just this cohort that we belong to, it's the 3rd largest economy in the world. Think about that. If we came together, the amount of spending power that we have, we can change the world, and it starts here with us coming together and meeting each other and partnering. And that's really what this is all about, is to give ourselves a parallel, patriotic economy that protects our liberty.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of all of us.
Thank you.
God bless all of you, and God bless America.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Canada's race toward the White House, America hopes for a clean and fair election. But do your kids understand what that means? It's why my team created the Kids Guide to the Presidential Election. As your kids read it, they'll discover how elections are won and how to ensure that every legal vote is counted and what happens when they're not. All future voters need this guide, and you can have it for free.
To order this free election gift bundle, just visit freeelectiongift.com. That's freeelectiongift.com.
Does the thought of losing your hard-earned retirement savings to DC's reckless spending scare the heck out of you? Smart Americans are taking action by texting the word NOW to 989898 for a free info kit on gold from Birch Gold Group. For 20 years, Birch Gold has helped concerned Americans protect their future by moving part of an existing IRA or 401k into a physical gold IRA. Text NOW to 989898 now for a free info kit.
Help and hope go hand in hand. Give, Send, Go, the leader in online fundraising.
Terms and conditions apply.
Losing weight has you frustrated, a group of doctors created a remarkable weight loss supplement called Lean, and it's very encouraging. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to help maintain healthy glucose levels, help burn fat by converting excess fat into energy, and reduce appetite so you eat less. If you've tried everything to lose weight, non-prescription Lean could be the answer you've been searching for.
Visit TakeLean.com and get 15% off with promo code GET15 at TakeLean.com.
everyone up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida.
Governor Ron DeSantis has just signed a controversial bill banning sanctuary cities.
Republican Ron DeSantis has signed a sweeping immigration crackdown into law.
DeSantis wins on the issue consistently of I'm going to get things done that nobody expects.
An astounding victory, 19-point landslide victory.
Ending Disney's decades-long reign of self-governance.
Legislation to ban Chinese citizens from buying land in his state.
Florida now officially the 26th state to allow permitless carry.
A 0% income tax. You have a $22 billion budget surplus, the highest in the state's history.
Uniform crime report shows crime in the Sunshine State dropped to a 50-year low.
Governor DeSantis has made Florida the freest among the most prosperous states in the union, pushing through universal school choice.
We oppose the sexualization of children. We will do battle with anybody that seeks to rob them of their innocence. And on those principles, there will be no compromise.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of Florida, Casey DeSantis.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I gotta tell you, I am so humbled and honored to be your First Lady. I've been able to do things that have made me very humbled and honored, and it's been a privilege since the very beginning. And I also want to say, as I've seen so many wonderful faces, so many familiar faces, thank you for the prayers. Thank you for sending me cards when I was going through my health battle. It meant the world to me. And I can tell you this, I would not be standing here right now if it weren't for those prayers. So God bless you and thank you for what you did. You know, I see so many great Republicans from across the state. I see so many wonderful, familiar faces. You know, I even see that we let some Democrats in here. I mean, the media, they're here. You know, it's funny, these hits from the media, some of them are so funny, they're just laughable. So I had a friend the other day, she called me and she was like, Casey, and this was a little while ago, she's like, Casey, they're hitting you. And I said, they're hitting me? Like, what did I do? You know, I'm just standing up for parents' rights, the innocence of our children, you know, those sorts of things. Like, they're hitting me? And she goes, yes. Do you know what they're calling you? And I said, no, what are they calling me? They said, Walmart Melania. I said, to which I was like, awesome! Like, that's the greatest thing you could call me. For me to be in the same sentence of Melania is a wonderful thing. She's gorgeous. That's great. I love it. Score. And then also, yes, guilty as charged. I shop at Walmart. I have a 6'5" and a 3-year-old. Do you know how quickly they go out of these clothes? I need $2 t-shirts, and especially with Bidenflation and Bidenomics, everything is getting more expensive. And, you know, I have to say, speaking of Joe Biden, how nice would it be, by the way, to have a president of the United States, to have their kids bring home homework to the White House instead of cocaine, okay? You know? You know, don't tell me that you don't know where the cocaine came from. I've been talking to a lot of law enforcement and people in the know, and they're like, oh yeah, we can figure that in 2 seconds. We know where the cocaine was coming from. You know, all jokes aside, I mean, how good does it feel to be in the free state of Florida? You know, it's not by coincidence or happenstance that this once swing state that was really determined by hanging chads is now bright red. So you look at the voter registration, and now we outpace the Democrats by 650,000 voter margin. And you go back to when the governor was first elected in 2018, there were Democrats, they had an advantage over us by 300,000 votes. They outpaced us, and we were able to turn it around and add 350,000 voters. And that happens for one reason, because we have one hell of a governor. You see, you remember it was DeSantis on his first day in office who removed the supervisor of elections in Palm Beach and Broward County when they couldn't get their acts together. It was DeSantis who appointed 7 conservative justices to the state Supreme Court. It was DeSantis who presided over elections that actually tabulated the winner by election night. What a concept. And when hurricanes hit our state, it was DeSantis who built bridges in 3 days, got people in their homes, and restored power in record time. It was DeSantis when the federal government left Americans stranded in Israel. It was the governor who muscled the resources and brought those Americans home. And it was DeSantis, not Joe Biden, who sent troops to our southern border. It was DeSantis. It was DeSantis who fought Disney when they tried to overturn parents' rights in this state. It was DeSantis who stared down the NCAA when they were trying to boycott the state over the governor's support